You're about to discover how to disappear completely and return as someone so capable, so unstoppable, that your current self would barely recognize you. Your transformation begins now, not through minor adjustments or gradual shifts, but through a precise system for completely rebuilding yourself from the ground up. Winning through mindset. Audiobook. Introduction. Stand in front of your mirror 1 year from today. The face staring back belongs to you, but something fundamental has shifted. Your eyes radiate an intensity that wasn't there before. Your posture emanates quiet confidence. Most striking, though, is what others see in you now: a force of nature, someone who makes things happen, who commands respect not through authority, but through sheer presence. This isn't about losing weight, changing your wardrobe, or climbing the corporate ladder. This is about engineering a complete metamorphosis of your identity. While most self-improvement books preach gradual change, they've got it wrong. You're not here to make minor adjustments. You're here to become unrecognizable. Right now, like most people, you live in a prison built from beliefs about who you are and what you're capable of. These invisible walls feel permanent, but they're more fragile than you imagine. Your brain possesses an extraordinary ability called neuroplasticity, the power to completely rewire itself around a new identity. Science shows that radical transformation isn't just possible, it's your brain's natural state. What you'll find in these pages isn't another collection of feel-good affirmations. It's a precise protocol for identity reconstruction, a system I've developed through years of studying how ordinary people engineer extraordinary transformations. Through this audiobook, you'll master the exact tools and strategies needed to rebuild yourself from the ground up. You stand at a crossroads. Behind you lies the familiar comfort of who you've always been. Ahead lies the person you're meant to become. Someone so capable, so confident, that your current self would barely recognize them. Chapter 1. Your current life is a cage. The alarm pierces the silence at 6:30 a.m., just as it has thousands of times before. Your hand moves automatically, finding the phone without conscious thought. For a moment, you lie there, feeling the weight of another day pressing down. The same routine awaits. Shower, coffee, commute, work, home, sleep, repeat. A well-worn groove so deep it feels like destiny. But that heaviness in your chest isn't just morning grogginess. It's recognition. Recognition that you've built yourself a prison of predictability. It's bars forged from comfort and routine. Every morning, you follow the same paths, think the same thoughts, face the same limitations. The walls feel solid, permanent, yet they're constructed entirely of habits and beliefs so familiar you've stopped questioning them. What makes this cage particularly insidious is how safe it feels. Like a wild animal raised in captivity, you've grown accustomed to these limitations. They've become comfortable, even reassuring. Each time you've contemplated making a bold change or taking a significant risk, your brain has expertly convinced you to stay put, to maintain the status quo, to remain safely within the confines of what you know. This is the comfort paradox. The brain's natural tendency toward homeostasis becomes our greatest enemy in transformation. Your neural pathways, like well-traveled roads, default to familiar routes. Each time you follow the same pattern, these neural highways become more deeply entrenched. The brain, masterful at conserving energy, will always choose the path of least resistance. It's not malicious. It's survival programming that served our ancestors well, but now keeps us trapped in mediocrity. Let us look at the story of Arnold Schwarzenegger's journey in the mid-1970s. He had already achieved unprecedented success in bodybuilding, winning multiple Mr. Olympia titles. He was the undisputed king of his domain, with a successful gym business and a comfortable life doing what he knew best. But Arnold recognized that comfort was a cage. Despite being at the absolute peak of bodybuilding, he made the radical decision to pursue acting, a field where his massive physique and thick Austrian accent seemed like insurmountable obstacles. The industry experts told him it was impossible. His accent was too strong, his name too foreign, his body too extreme for mainstream appeal. He faced constant rejection and ridicule, but Arnold understood something fundamental about transformation. Staying within the confines of his existing identity, no matter how successful, meant accepting limitations that weren't real. Instead of trying to gradually transition or maintain both careers, he made a complete commitment to his new identity. He took acting classes, worked with speech coaches, and systematically dismantled his old identity to build something new. He didn't just step out of his comfort zone, he demolished it entirely. The result? He became one of Hollywood's highest-paid actors, and eventually the governor of California. Your cage might look different from Arnold's, but it's no less real. To break free requires understanding how pattern disruption works. The deliberate interruption of comfortable routines to shock your system into new possibilities. This isn't about making small adjustments. It's about systematically identifying and challenging every pattern that keeps you confined. Let's look at how this works in practice. Alex, a mid-level marketing manager, had spent 8 years building a comfortable corporate career. He had the respect of his colleagues, a decent salary, and a clear path to senior management. But each morning, he felt that same heaviness you might recognize. The weight of knowing he was living someone else's definition of success. Instead of making gradual changes, Alex approached his transformation like a scientist. He documented every routine, habit, and pattern in his life, from his morning coffee ritual to his evening wind-down routine. Then, he systematically began disrupting each one. He started working at different times, from different locations. He changed his exercise routine, his diet, even his sleep schedule. Each disruption created small cracks in the walls of his comfort cage. The most significant disruption came when he decided to launch his own business. Rather than trying to build it slowly on the side, a common approach that often leads to perpetual preparation without action, he set a firm deadline for leaving his job. He knew that maintaining the safety net of his salary would keep one foot firmly in his old identity. Within 6 months, Alex had transformed his life completely. His location-independent business allowed him to work from anywhere, and more importantly, he had developed a new identity as someone who makes bold moves and thrives in uncertainty. The prison of his old routines was replaced by the freedom of possibility. This brings us to you. Right now, you're sitting in your own custom-built cage, probably one that looks successful and comfortable from the outside. The bars might be gilded with achievements and social approval, but they're bars nonetheless. Breaking free starts with a single, decisive action. Your challenge for tomorrow is this. Identify one deeply ingrained pattern in your life, something so routine you do it without thinking, and deliberately disrupt it. This isn't about choosing something trivial, like taking a different route to work. Choose something that makes you genuinely uncomfortable. If you always eat lunch at your desk, force yourself to sit with strangers in the break room. If you habitually check your phone first thing in the morning, lock it in another room overnight. If you work out at the same time every day, completely change your schedule. The point isn't the specific pattern you break, it's developing the muscle of intentionally making yourself uncomfortable. Because that heaviness you feel each morning, it's not the weight of another routine day. It's the weight of unused potential, of the extraordinary person trapped inside your comfortable cage. Chapter 2. The Science of Identity Plasticity. Look at your reflection in the mirror. That face, those features, that presence you've come to accept as you. It all seems so solid, so unchangeable. But beneath the surface, your brain is constantly rewiring itself, creating new neural pathways and pruning old ones. Your identity, the very essence of who you believe yourself to be, is far more fluid than you imagine. Consider the extraordinary transformation that occurs in the brains of London taxi drivers. Before they can earn their license, these drivers must master the knowledge, memorizing over 25,000 streets and 20,000 landmarks across London. This process takes years of intensive study, and neuroscientific research has shown something remarkable. Their hippocampus, the brain region responsible for spatial navigation and memory, physically expands. These drivers literally reshape their brains through focused effort and deliberate practice. This isn't just about memorizing streets. It's evidence of a profound truth. Your brain is continuously molding itself to match your behaviors, thoughts, and experiences. Every time you think a thought, perform an action, or respond to a situation, you're either reinforcing existing neural pathways or creating new ones. This process, known as neuroplasticity, is the biological foundation of identity transformation. Your current identity, your habits, reactions, capabilities, and self-image is nothing more than a network of well-traveled neural pathways. These pathways weren't ordained by fate or locked in at birth. They were created through repetition and reinforcement. The same mechanism that created your current identity can be harnessed to forge a new one. Understanding this biological reality destroys the myth of fixed personality. You're not stuck with who you are. You're simply experiencing the momentum of well-established neural patterns. Change these patterns, and you change who you are at a fundamental level. Elon Musk's transformation provides a fascinating, real-world example of identity plasticity in action. In his early days at PayPal, Musk was known for being technically brilliant but socially awkward and often abrasive in his communications. He struggled with public speaking and wasn't naturally suited to being the face of a company. Yet today, he commands massive audiences, delivers compelling presentations, and has built a public persona that attracts millions of followers. This transformation wasn't accidental. Musk approached the development of his social and leadership capabilities with the same systematic intensity he applies to engineering problems. He studied communication patterns, analyzed successful leaders, and deliberately put himself in challenging social situations that forced his brain to adapt. He didn't just learn new skills, he reconstructed his identity from awkward programmer to visionary leader. The key insight from Musk's transformation is that he didn't wait to feel like a leader before acting like one. He understood intuitively what neuroscience now confirms. Behavior shapes identity, not the other way around. By consistently acting in alignment with his desired identity, he created new neural pathways that eventually became his default operating system. This brings us to the practical application of neuroplasticity in your own transformation. Your brain doesn't distinguish between real and practiced experiences when forming neural pathways. This means you can deliberately engineer new identity patterns through structured practice and environmental design. The first step is understanding identity priming, the process of preparing your neural pathways for change. Just as a painter primes a canvas before creating a masterpiece, you must prepare your brain for transformation. This involves three key elements: pattern interruption, deliberately breaking existing neural patterns through novel experiences and behaviors. This creates a state of heightened neuroplasticity, making your brain more receptive to new patterns. Environmental engineering, restructuring your physical and social environment to support new neural pathways. Your brain takes cues from your environment to determine appropriate behaviors and responses. Identity rehearsal, systematically practicing behaviors and thought patterns aligned with your desired identity. creating new neural pathways through focused repetition. Maria, a data analyst in her mid-30s, applied these principles to transform herself from someone paralyzed by social anxiety into a confident public speaker who now regularly presents at international conferences. She didn't start with grand gestures. Instead, she began with small, deliberate pattern interruptions, forcing herself to speak up at least once in every meeting, even if just to ask a question. She engineered her environment by joining a local Toastmasters club, surrounding herself with people who already embodied the confident identity she sought to develop. She plastered her workspace with images of powerful speakers and kept a journal where she documented every small speaking victory, reinforcing new neural pathways through conscious reflection. Most importantly, Maria committed to daily identity rehearsal. She would arrive at her office early to practice presentations in empty conference rooms, recording herself and studying her delivery. She developed a pre-speaking ritual that included power poses and specific visualization exercises, training her brain to associate public speaking with confidence rather than fear. Within 6 months, her colleagues noticed a dramatic shift. The nervous, hesitant data analyst had been replaced by someone who commanded attention when she spoke. Her brain had literally rewired itself around a new identity, not through wishful thinking or positive affirmations, but through deliberate practice and environmental engineering. The power of neuroplasticity means that this same transformation is available to you in any area of your life. Your brain is waiting to be reshaped. It simply needs clear direction and consistent input. Here's your challenge for the next 24 hours. Choose 3 specific behaviors that embody your desired future identity. These should be concrete, observable actions, not vague aspirations. If you want to become a leader, perhaps it's standing taller, speaking more slowly, and asking penetrating questions. If you're building an identity as a writer, it might be waking up early to write, carrying a notebook everywhere, and reading during your lunch break. Whatever behaviors you choose, commit to performing them consistently for the next 24 hours, paying careful attention to how this deliberate practice affects your self-perception. Remember, you're not pretending or fake it till you make it. You're literally rewiring your brain, creating new neural pathways that will eventually become your default way of being. Your identity is not a prison sentence. It's a canvas waiting to be repainted. The brush is in your hand. What masterpiece will you create? Chapter 3. Why most people never change. Look around you. In every office, gym, and coffee shop, you'll find people trapped in a peculiar kind of purgatory, wanting to change, trying to change, yet somehow remaining exactly the same. The statistics are sobering. 92% of New Year's resolutions crumble before February ends. But these aren't just numbers. They represent millions of unfulfilled dreams, shelved ambitions, and lives lived far below their potential. This isn't about lack of desire or insufficient motivation. The truth is far more complex and deeply rooted in our biological and social programming. Your brain, your environment, and even your closest relationships are conspiring to keep you exactly where you are. Not out of malice, but due to powerful forces designed to maintain stability at all costs. These forces create 3 primary barriers to transformation: psychological homeostasis, social reinforcement, and incomplete identity shifts. Think of them as invisible walls. You can't overcome what you can't see. Understanding these barriers isn't just academic. It's the difference between another failed attempt at change and true transformation. Psychological homeostasis is your brain's built-in resistance to change. Like a thermostat maintaining room temperature, your mind actively works to preserve your current identity, even when that identity no longer serves you. Every time you push toward change, this internal mechanism pulls you back to your comfort zone with powerful tools: self-doubt, rationalization, and fear. Social reinforcement acts like a web of invisible threads holding you in place. Your friends, family, and colleagues have formed expectations about who you are and how you behave. When you attempt to change, these relationships often unconsciously work to maintain the status quo, creating what psychologists call behavioral reinforcement loops. Incomplete identity shifts occur when you try to change your actions without first reconstructing your self-image. It's like trying to run new software on an outdated operating system. Eventually, the old programming takes over. David Goggins' transformation provides a masterclass in overcoming these barriers. Before becoming an elite ultramarathon runner and Navy SEAL, Goggins was an overweight pest exterminator struggling with depression and low self-worth. His story is particularly powerful because he systematically confronted and conquered each transformation barrier. To overcome psychological homeostasis, Goggins developed what he calls the accountability mirror, forcing himself to confront the raw truth about his situation every morning. He didn't try to think positively or ease into change. Instead, he deliberately created such a stark contrast between his current reality and his potential that staying the same became more painful than changing. To break free from social reinforcement, Goggins made a radical decision to completely restructure his social environment. He stopped spending time with people who reinforced his old identity and deliberately sought out relationships that pulled him toward his new self. This wasn't about abandoning relationships. It was about refusing to let others' expectations define his limitations. Most importantly, Goggins understood that surface-level changes wouldn't stick. He didn't just adopt new habits. He systematically reconstructed his entire identity through what he calls callousing the mind, deliberately seeking out challenges that forced him to develop a new self-image. Each completed challenge became evidence that supported his new identity as someone capable of extraordinary achievement. The key insight from Goggins' transformation is that breaking through these barriers requires a systematic approach. You can't simply power through them with motivation or willpower. You need a strategic framework, what I call barrier busting, to systematically identify and neutralize each obstacle. James, a corporate marketing manager who dreamed of becoming an artist, applied this framework to engineer his own transformation. His story illustrates how anyone can overcome these barriers with the right approach. To combat psychological homeostasis, James created what he called his inevitability map, a detailed breakdown of exactly how his current path would play out if nothing changed. He projected 5 years into the future, calculating the exact salary he'd make, the title he'd hold, and most importantly, how he'd feel waking up every morning to a life that didn't align with his true calling. This exercise made the pain of staying the same greater than the fear of change. To address social reinforcement, James didn't immediately quit his job or announce his plans to become an artist. Instead, he began systematically restructuring his environment while maintaining stability. He joined local art groups, attended workshops on weekends, and built relationships with working artists who could mentor him. He created what he called identity bridges, connections to his new life, while gradually disconnecting from influences that reinforced his old identity. For the incomplete identity shift barrier, James developed a daily practice he called living as if. Each morning, before work, he spent 2 hours doing exactly what a professional artist would do: sketching, studying technique, and working on commissioned pieces, even if unpaid at first. He wasn't pretending. He was literally rewiring his brain to operate from a new identity. The most crucial element of James's transformation was his systematic approach to barrier identification and elimination. He created a barrier inventory, a detailed list of every obstacle, internal and external, that stood between him and his new identity. Then, he developed specific strategies to neutralize each one. Financial barriers? He lived on 50% of his income for a year, building a runway for his transition. Fear of failure? He reframed failure as market research, meticulously documenting what worked and what didn't in his early art sales. Social pressure? He developed clear, confident responses to questions about his career change, framing it as a strategic evolution rather than a risky leap. Within 18 months, James had built enough momentum in his art career to leave his corporate job. Today, he runs a successful studio, creating commissioned pieces for collectors worldwide. The transformation wasn't easy or comfortable, but by systematically addressing each barrier, he made it inevitable. Your transformation faces these same barriers. They're operating right now, working to keep you exactly where you are. But like James and Goggins, you can overcome them with the right approach. Here's your challenge for the next week. Create your own barrier inventory. Take a blank sheet of paper and write down every single obstacle, internal and external, that stands between you and your desired identity. Be brutally honest. Include everything from financial constraints to fear of judgment, from lack of skills to unsupportive relationships. Then, choose the single biggest barrier, the one that, if eliminated, would create the most significant shift in your transformation journey. Develop a specific, actionable plan to neutralize this barrier within the next 7 days. Don't try to tackle everything at once. Focus all your energy on dismantling this one obstacle. Remember, understanding what holds you back is the first step to breaking free. The barriers to transformation are real, but they're not insurmountable. They're simply challenges waiting to be systematically dismantled by those who refuse to remain trapped in their current identity. Chapter 4. The Power of Strategic Discomfort. You're standing at the edge of a cold shower, hand hovering over the temperature dial. Every cell in your body screams for the comfort of warm water. This seemingly trivial moment perfectly encapsulates the fundamental choice that shapes your entire life trajectory. The choice between comfortable mediocrity and uncomfortable growth. That hesitation you feel, that instinctive pull toward comfort, isn't just about avoiding cold water. It's your brain's ancient survival programming at work, desperately trying to conserve energy and avoid potential threats. But in our modern world, this same programming that once kept our ancestors alive now keeps us trapped in mediocrity. The paradox of human potential lies in this peculiar truth. Your comfort zone, while feeling safe, is actually dangerous. It's a slowly constricting space that gradually diminishes your capabilities, your resilience, and ultimately, your life possibilities. Every time you choose comfort over growth, this zone shrinks a little more, until one day you find yourself living in a psychological prison of your own making. But there's a systematic way to break free, a scientific approach to expanding your capacity for discomfort that doesn't rely on motivation or willpower. I call it the discomfort hierarchy, a progressive framework for systematically expanding your comfort zone through strategic exposure to challenging situations. Think of your nervous system like a muscle. When you first start lifting weights, you can't immediately jump to heavy loads. You'd risk injury and failure. Instead, you progressively overload the muscle, allowing it to adapt and grow stronger over time. Your capacity for discomfort works exactly the same way. The discomfort hierarchy operates on 3 key principles: progressive exposure, strategic recovery, and identity reinforcement. Each challenge must be slightly beyond your current capacity, but not so far that it triggers complete shutdown. Recovery periods between exposures allow your nervous system to adapt and integrate the experience. Most importantly, each successful navigation of discomfort becomes evidence that reinforces your new identity as someone who thrives in challenging situations. Admiral William McRaven's transformation through Navy SEAL Bud S training provides a masterclass in this approach. While most focus on the physical brutality of SEAL training, McRaven's insights reveal something far more profound: the systematic reconstruction of his nervous system's relationship with discomfort. In his own words, Bud S. wasn't about being tough enough to endure cold water, sleep deprivation, or physical exhaustion. It was about learning to find comfort in discomfort, to operate effectively when every biological signal was screaming for retreat. The training followed a precise progression, each evolution building upon the last, systematically expanding the candidate's capacity for stress. McRaven's most powerful insight came during Hell Week, when he discovered what he called the 40% rule. When his body screamed that it was done, when every fiber of his being demanded relief, he was actually only operating at about 40% of his true capacity. This wasn't just motivational thinking. It was a fundamental reconstruction of his understanding of human limitations. The key to McRaven's transformation wasn't just enduring discomfort. It was learning to analyze it objectively, to understand it as data rather than a threat. This cognitive reframing allowed him to systematically push boundaries that most people accept as fixed limitations. This same systematic approach to discomfort training can revolutionize your life, regardless of your goals. It's not about subjecting yourself to random hardships or practicing stoicism for its own sake. It's about strategically expanding your capacity for productive stress through deliberately engineered challenges. Daniel, a software developer with severe social anxiety, applied these principles to transform from a socially paralyzed introvert to a confident public speaker and startup founder. His story illustrates how anyone can systematically expand their comfort zone through strategic discomfort training. Instead of trying to immediately force himself into high-stress social situations, Daniel created what he called his social expansion protocol, a carefully calibrated progression of challenges designed to gradually rebuild his relationship with social discomfort. He started with minimal exposure, simply making eye contact with strangers for 3 seconds. Once this became manageable, he progressed to giving compliments to baristas, then to initiating brief conversations with colleagues. Each step was carefully chosen to be challenging, but not overwhelming, with clear success criteria and recovery periods between exposures. Daniel tracked his physiological responses, heart rate, sweating, muscle tension, not to eliminate them, but to develop a more objective relationship with his stress response. He learned to recognize these symptoms not as warnings of imminent danger, but as indicators that he was in his growth zone. The breakthrough came when he realized that social anxiety wasn't his enemy. It was simply his nervous system's habitual response to uncertainty. By systematically expanding his capacity for social discomfort, he wasn't eliminating anxiety. He was building a new relationship with it. After 6 months of progressive exposure, Daniel found himself voluntarily seeking out public speaking opportunities. Within a year, he was pitching his startup to investors, something that would have been unthinkable before his transformation. The key wasn't becoming a different person. It was systematically expanding his capacity for productive stress. The science behind this approach is clear. Systematic exposure to progressively challenging situations triggers neuroplastic changes in your brain's threat response system. Each successful navigation of discomfort creates new neural pathways, literally rewiring your brain's relationship with stress and uncertainty. Your transformation requires this same systematic approach to discomfort training. Random acts of hardship won't create lasting change. You need a strategic framework for progressively expanding your comfort zone. Here's your challenge for the next week. Create your own discomfort hierarchy. First, identify an area where comfort is limiting your growth. Perhaps it's social situations, physical challenges, or professional risks. Then, design 3 progressively challenging exposures in this area. Start small but specific. If public speaking terrifies you, don't begin with a TED Talk. Start with speaking up once in your next team meeting. The key is to make each challenge slightly more demanding than the last, but not so overwhelming that you'll avoid it entirely. Document your physiological and emotional responses during each exposure. Don't try to suppress them. Simply observe them with curiosity. Remember, discomfort is not your enemy. It's the essential stimulus for growth. Chapter 5. Burning Your Boats. In 1519, on the coast of Mexico, Hernán Cortés made a decision that would forever alter the course of history. He ordered his men to burn their ships, eliminating any possibility of retreat. This wasn't an act of reckless bravado. It was a profound understanding of human psychology. By destroying their means of escape, Cortés transformed his men's mindset from "we'll try our best" to "we must succeed or die trying." Right now you're standing on your own metaphorical beach. Your ships, those comfortable backup plans, those just-in-case options, those golden handcuffs, are anchored safely offshore. They provide comfort, security, and peace of mind. They also guarantee your mediocrity. The most dangerous phrase in the language of transformation is, "I'll give it my best shot." This seemingly positive statement carries within it the seeds of failure, because it implicitly preserves the possibility of retreat. Your brain, designed for survival rather than transformation, will always keep one foot in the safety zone as long as that option exists. This isn't about reckless abandonment of security. It's about understanding that true transformation requires total commitment. The physics of breakthrough success operate on an absolute law. The energy you invest in maintaining backup plans is energy stolen from your primary mission. The science of commitment is fascinating. Studies in behavioral psychology show that when people eliminate their backup options, their performance improves dramatically. This isn't just about increased effort. It's about fundamental changes in how your brain processes challenges and opportunities. When backup plans exist, your brain constantly performs split-second calculations, weighing the relative merits of perseverance versus retreat. This cognitive overhead doesn't just consume mental energy. It fundamentally alters your approach to obstacles. Instead of asking, "How can I solve this?" your brain automatically includes, "Or should I fall back to plan B?" in every decision matrix. Jeff Bezos' transformation from successful Wall Street executive to e-commerce pioneer illustrates this principle perfectly. In 1994, Bezos was thriving in his role at D.E. Shaw & Company, one of Wall Street's most innovative firms. He had security, prestige, and a clear path to exceptional wealth. But when he saw the potential of the internet, he understood that half measures wouldn't suffice. What's often overlooked in the Amazon origin story is how deliberately Bezos eliminated his backup options. He didn't take a leave of absence or maintain his Wall Street connections as a safety net. He resigned completely, moved across the country, and set up shop in his garage. By burning his professional ships, he forced his brain to direct all its problem-solving capacity toward making Amazon succeed. Bezos understood that keeping his Wall Street career as a backup plan wouldn't just provide safety, it would ensure failure. The mental energy required to maintain that backup option, the constant temptation to retreat when things got tough, would have prevented him from fully committing to his vision. The total commitment architecture is a systematic approach to eliminating backup plans and creating conditions where success becomes the only viable option. It operates on 3 levels: professional, social, and psychological. Professional commitment architecture involves systematically eliminating career safety nets. This doesn't mean quitting your job immediately. It means creating conditions where maintaining your current professional identity becomes impossible. Social commitment architecture requires restructuring your relationships and social environments to support your new identity, rather than maintaining your old one. This often means difficult decisions about which relationships serve your transformation and which anchor you to mediocrity. Psychological commitment architecture is the most crucial and challenging. It involves systematically eliminating the mental escape hatches that allow you to retreat into old patterns when transformation becomes uncomfortable. Rachel's story powerfully illustrates how this framework operates in practice. A mid-level marketing manager with dreams of building her own agency, Rachel spent years preparing to make the leap while maintaining her corporate safety net. Despite having sufficient savings, skills, and even some initial clients, she remained trapped in the comfortable prison of her corporate job. Her transformation began when she realized her backup plans were actually her primary obstacle. Using the point of no return protocol, she systematically eliminated her retreat options. First, she announced her resignation date to her entire professional network on LinkedIn, making it socially impossible to back out. Then, she signed a 1-year lease on a small office space, creating a financial commitment that would require her to succeed. Finally, she deliberately declined a prestigious job offer that would have provided an easy escape route when things got tough. The most powerful moment came when she sold her car, not because she needed the money, but because keeping it represented an unconscious backup plan. The psychological impact was immediate. Without the option of returning to corporate life, her brain stopped wasting energy on escape routes and focused entirely on solving the challenges of building her agency. Within 6 months, Rachel had built a thriving business that exceeded her corporate salary. But the real transformation wasn't financial. It was in her capacity to face and solve challenges. Without backup plans consuming mental energy, she discovered resources of creativity and resilience she never knew she possessed. The point of no return protocol isn't about reckless abandonment of security. It's about strategic elimination of escape routes that prevent total commitment. It begins with a careful inventory of your backup plans, both obvious and hidden. These include professional backup plans, the old jobs, careers, or skills you keep in reserve. Social backup plans, the relationships and environments that enable retreat. Financial backup plans, the safety nets that make failure comfortable. Psychological backup plans, the self-limiting beliefs that provide excuses for retreat. Each backup plan must be evaluated not for its practical value, but for its cost in terms of mental energy and commitment diffusion. Then, you must create specific, time-bound plans for eliminating each one. Your challenge for this week is to conduct a ruthless inventory of your backup plans. Identify the single most significant escape route that's preventing your total commitment to transformation. Then, create a specific, dated plan for eliminating it within the next 30 days. This isn't about burning all your ships at once. It's about making a clear, irrevocable commitment to becoming the person you're meant to be. Remember, the ships you refuse to burn become the anchors that hold you in place. What backup plan will you eliminate first? Chapter 6. The Investment Mindset. Every second of your life is a transaction. Right now, as you read these words, you're either investing in your future self or making withdrawals against your potential. This isn't metaphorical. Your brain is physically restructuring itself based on your choices, building neural pathways that will either empower or limit your future capabilities. Think of your daily decisions as deposits and withdrawals from the most important account you'll ever manage, your identity capital. When you scroll mindlessly through social media, you're not just wasting time. You're actively depleting your future resources. When you push yourself to learn something new, face a challenge, or build a valuable relationship, you're making deposits that will compound over time. The mathematics of personal transformation follow the same principles as compound interest. Small, consistent investments in your capabilities create exponential returns over time, while seemingly minor withdrawals accumulate into massive opportunity costs. This isn't just theory. It's supported by neurological research on habit formation and skill acquisition. Every time you make a choice aligned with your desired identity, you strengthen the neural pathways associated with that behavior. Each decision that reinforces your current limitations weakens your capacity for change. Warren Buffett's story provides a masterclass in identity investment, but not in the way most people think. While everyone focuses on his financial acumen, the real lesson lies in how he systematically invested in his capabilities from an early age. At 15, Buffett didn't just start investing money. He began a deliberate program of self-development that would compound throughout his life. Most people know that Buffett conquered his fear of public speaking by taking a Dale Carnegie course, but they miss the deeper insight. He didn't just attend the course. He approached it as a fundamental investment in his future capabilities. While other participants focused on getting through each speaking assignment, Buffett understood that every minute of discomfort was building equity in his future self. What's particularly instructive is how Buffett applied investment thinking to his relationships and learning habits. He would spend hours preparing questions before meeting with business leaders, not just to impress them, but because he viewed each interaction as an opportunity to acquire knowledge that would compound over time. Even today, in his 90s, Buffett spends 80% of his day reading and learning, not because he needs to, but because he understands that intellectual compound interest never stops accumulating. The identity ROI, return on investment matrix, provides a framework for evaluating every choice through the lens of identity investment. It operates on two axes: immediate comfort versus long-term value, and identity alignment versus identity dilution. When faced with any decision, ask yourself, is this choice building equity in my future self, or am I making withdrawals against my potential? More importantly, is this action aligned with the identity I'm building, or does it reinforce limitations I'm trying to transcend? The most dangerous withdrawals aren't the obvious ones like procrastination or negative habits. They're the subtle choices that feel productive but actually dilute your identity capital, like staying in a comfortable job that's beneath your potential, or maintaining relationships that anchor you to old patterns. Linda's transformation illustrates how powerful this mindset shift can be. A middle school teacher with entrepreneurial dreams, Linda spent years preparing to start her own educational technology company while making constant withdrawals from her identity capital through inaction and hesitation. Her breakthrough came when she started treating every hour as an investment opportunity. She created a simple system. Each evening, she would review her next day's calendar and categorize every planned activity as either an investment or a withdrawal. This wasn't just about time management. It was about identity alignment. The results were revealing. Activities she had considered productive, like attending general professional development workshops, were actually low-return investments that drained energy from higher-value opportunities. Meanwhile, things she had been avoiding, like cold calling potential clients or learning to code, offered compound returns in both skills and identity reinforcement. Linda began restructuring her days around high ROI activities. Instead of watching TV after work, she invested that time in developing her technical skills. Rather than spending weekends relaxing, she treated Saturday mornings as prime investment hours for working on her business plan. Even her social activities were evaluated through the lens of identity investment. Did each interaction move her closer to or further from her entrepreneurial identity? Within 6 months, this systematic approach to identity investment transformed not just her capabilities, but her entire self-conception. The compound effect of daily high ROI choices created momentum that made her entrepreneurial transition not just possible, but inevitable. The most powerful aspect of the investment mindset is how it reframes discomfort. When you view challenging activities as high-yield investments in your future self, resistance becomes a signal of opportunity rather than a warning to retreat. Just as financial investments often require short-term sacrifice for long-term gains, Identity investments often demand immediate discomfort for future capabilities. Keep these principles in mind when evaluating any activity. Compound identity. Returns. Small, consistent investments in key capabilities create exponential growth over time. Reading for 30 minutes daily might seem insignificant, but over a year, it represents a massive deposit in your knowledge capital. Opportunity costs. Every low-value activity has a hidden cost, the high-value investment it displaces. An hour spent in unfocused social media browsing isn't just wasted time. It's a withdrawal from your potential future self. Investment alignment. Activities should be evaluated not just on their immediate return, but on how well they align with your target identity. Something can be objectively productive while still diluting your core identity investment. Your challenge for tomorrow is to conduct an identity investment audit. Track every hour of your day, categorizing each activity as either an investment in or withdrawal from your future self. Be ruthlessly honest. Even seemingly productive activities might be low-yield investments that need to be reallocated. At day's end, identify one specific change you can make to increase your daily identity ROI. Remember, every moment is a transaction. What investment will you make in your future self today? Chapter 7. Identity Architecture. Every extraordinary building begins as a blueprint. Before the first foundation is laid, before a single brick is placed, architects spend countless hours designing every detail of what will eventually emerge from the ground. Your transformation demands the same level of intentional design. Look at your life right now. The person you've become wasn't randomly assembled. It's the result of thousands of small decisions, habits, and beliefs that have constructed your current identity. Some were consciously chosen, but most were unconsciously adopted, like a building that grew haphazardly without a master plan. The fundamental truth about identity is that it's an engineered outcome, not a discovered one. Just as skyscrapers don't evolve naturally from piles of materials, your extraordinary future self won't emerge spontaneously from good intentions. It must be deliberately designed, carefully constructed, and systematically reinforced. The neuroscience of identity formation reveals that your brain is constantly rebuilding itself around your behaviors and beliefs. Every action you take, every thought you entertain, is either reinforcing your current architectural structure or laying the groundwork for a new one. Without a blueprint, this reconstruction happens chaotically, often reinforcing the very patterns you're trying to break. Lady Gaga's transformation from Stefani Germanotta to global icon provides a masterclass in identity architecture. While many view her transformation as merely artistic reinvention, the reality reveals a precisely engineered identity reconstruction. She didn't just change her name and style. She systematically designed every aspect of her new identity, from her distinctive vocal techniques to her philosophical worldview. What's particularly instructive is how Gaga approached this transformation as an architectural project. She created detailed blueprints for her persona, mapping out everything from her performance energy to her daily rituals. She understood that sustainable transformation requires more than surface changes. It demands a complete structural redesign from the foundation up. Most revealing was her approach to habit architecture. Gaga didn't just practice performing, she lived her designed identity 24/7, understanding that offstage consistency was as crucial as onstage presence. She engineered specific morning routines, speaking patterns, and thought processes that would support her new identity, treating each aspect as a crucial architectural element in her larger design. The Identity Blueprint method provides a systematic framework for engineering your transformation. It operates on 3 architectural levels: foundation, core beliefs and values; structure, daily habits and behaviors; and facade, external expression and interaction patterns. Many transformation attempts fail because they focus solely on the facade, changing surface behaviors without reinforcing the foundational structure. It's like painting a crumbling building. The new color might look nice, temporarily, but the underlying structural issues will eventually show through. True identity architecture begins with foundation work. You must first design the core beliefs and values that will support your new identity. These aren't vague aspirations, but precisely engineered psychological structures that can bear the weight of your transformation. The structural level involves designing the daily systems and habits that will physically construct your new identity. This isn't about motivation or willpower. It's about engineering an environment and routine that makes your desired behaviors inevitable. Michael's transformation from scattered freelancer to sought-after consultant illustrates these principles in action. His breakthrough came when he stopped trying to become more professional and instead began architecting a specific professional identity. He started by designing detailed blueprints for his ideal consulting persona, mapping out everything from his communication style to his problem-solving approach. But unlike previous attempts at change, he didn't stop at surface-level modifications. Michael engineered his physical environment to support his new identity, transforming his home office from a casual workspace into a professional consultation studio. He designed specific morning protocols that would put him in his optimal state before client interactions. Even his email responses were architected to reflect his new identity's communication style. Most importantly, he created what he called identity scaffolding, temporary support structures that would hold his new behaviors in place until they became natural. This included scripts for client conversations, templates for project proposals, and specific routines for handling challenging situations. The results transcended mere behavioral change. Within months, Michael wasn't just acting more professional. He had literally reconstructed his professional identity from the ground up. His transformation was so complete that former clients often commented that he seemed like a different person entirely. What made Michael's transformation sustainable was his attention to architectural detail. He didn't just change what he did, he engineered who he was at a fundamental level. Every aspect of his new identity was deliberately designed and systematically implemented. The power of identity architecture lies in its comprehensiveness. When you design and build every aspect of your new identity, from your morning routine to your emotional responses, transformation becomes not just possible, but inevitable. Your challenge today is to begin drafting your identity blueprint. Take a blank piece of paper and create 3 sections: foundation, core beliefs and values; structure, daily habits and behaviors; and facade, external expression and interactions. Under each section, detail specific elements of your desired identity. Be as precise as possible. This isn't a wish list, but an architectural blueprint. What beliefs need to be engineered into your foundation? What daily structures will support your new identity? How will your facade need to change to reflect your internal transformation? Remember, you're not discovering who you are. You're designing who you'll become. Chapter 8. The Mirror Principle. Every moment of your life, your brain is engaged in an intricate dance of neural connections, strengthening some pathways while weakening others. This isn't just abstract neuroscience. It's the fundamental mechanism that either locks you into your current identity or enables your transformation. The spaces you inhabit, the people you interact with, and the routines you follow aren't just background elements. They're actively programming your neural pathways, shaping who you become. Think of your environment as a mirror, but not the kind that simply reflects what's there. This mirror is more like a mold, constantly pressing its pattern into your neural circuitry. When you consistently expose yourself to certain surroundings, behaviors, and influences, your brain literally rewires itself to align with these experiences. This process, known as Hebbian learning, shows that neurons that fire together wire together. The implications of this principle are profound. If your environment consistently reflects mediocrity, comfort, or limitation, your brain will wire itself accordingly. But if you deliberately structure your surroundings to reflect excellence, growth, and possibility, your neural pathways will reconstruct themselves to match this new pattern. Oprah Winfrey's transformation from local news anchor to global media icon provides a masterclass in environmental identity programming. While many focus on her talent and determination, what's less discussed is how deliberately she engineered her environment to support her evolving identity. Early in her career, Winfrey recognized that her surroundings were reinforcing her identity as a local personality, rather than the global leader she aspired to become. She began systematically restructuring every aspect of her environment. She upgraded her office from a standard newsroom desk to a space that reflected executive leadership. She deliberately sought out mentors and connections who operated at her aspirational level, not her current one. Most tellingly, she transformed her daily routines to mirror those of the global influencers she aimed to join. She started her days earlier, restructured her meeting patterns, and even modified how her team interacted with her. Each change was designed to create an environment that reflected not who she was, but who she was becoming. The environmental identity programming framework operates on 3 levels: physical space, social dynamics, and routine structures. Each element must be deliberately engineered to reflect and reinforce your desired identity rather than your current one. Most transformation attempts fail because they focus on changing behaviors while leaving the environment unchanged. It's like trying to reshape water while keeping it in the same container. The old form will always reassert itself. True environmental transformation begins with a comprehensive audit of your current surroundings. Every element of your environment is either programming you for growth or reinforcing limitation. There are no neutral spaces. Your physical environment is constantly broadcasting identity cues to your brain. The organization of your workspace, the state of your living area, even the clothes in your closet are either reinforcing your current identity or supporting your transformation. The social dimension of your environment is equally crucial. The people you regularly interact with, the conversations you engage in, and the behavioral norms of your social circles are all programming your identity at a neural level. Kai's transformation from scattered creative to productive artist illustrates these principles in action. His breakthrough came when he realized that his chaotic studio space and irregular routines weren't just symptoms of his scattered approach. They were causing it. He began with a complete redesign of his physical space. His cluttered studio was transformed into an organized creative sanctuary. Each tool had its place, and the space was engineered to support focused work rather than scattered activity. But he didn't stop at physical changes. Kai restructured his daily routines to mirror those of highly productive artists he admired. He established strict working hours, implemented specific pre-work rituals, and created designated spaces for different types of creative work. He even reorganized his digital environment, removing distracting apps and restructuring his online workspace to support focused creation. Most importantly, he engineered what he called identity anchors, environmental cues that constantly reminded him of his new identity as a disciplined artist. These included a carefully curated inspiration wall, a daily schedule displayed prominently, and regular check-ins with a community of serious artists. The results transcended mere productivity improvements. Within months, Kai's entire approach to his art had transformed. The environment he had engineered was literally reshaping his neural pathways, making focused creativity his default state rather than a struggle. The Identity Mirror Matrix provides a systematic framework for engineering your environment to support transformation. It examines 3 key areas: physical space, your immediate surroundings; social dynamics, your relationships and interactions, and routine structures, your daily patterns and habits. For each area, you must identify elements that are either reflecting your desired identity or reinforcing your old patterns. Then, systematically redesign each element to support your transformation. Your challenge today is to conduct a thorough environmental audit using the Identity Mirror Matrix. Take a piece of paper and create 3 columns: physical space, social dynamics, and routine structures. Under each column, list elements that are either supporting or hindering your desired identity. Choose the 3 most misaligned elements and create a specific plan to restructure them within the next week. Remember, your environment isn't just where you live and work. It's actively programming who you become. What identity is your current environment programming you for? Chapter 9. Strategic Isolation. The most profound transformations in nature occur in complete isolation. When a caterpillar enters its chrysalis, it doesn't just pause its normal activities, it literally dissolves its entire being, breaking down into a cellular soup before reconstructing itself as something entirely new. This metamorphosis cannot happen in the open. It requires absolute separation from the outside world, a sacred space where old forms can dissolve and new ones can emerge. Your brain operates under similar principles. When constantly exposed to external stimuli, social pressures, and familiar patterns, it maintains existing neural pathways rather than forming new ones. True neural reorganization, the kind that enables fundamental identity shifts, requires periods of strategic isolation where your brain can break down old patterns and construct new ones without interference. This isn't about becoming a hermit or cutting off all human contact. It's about understanding that transformation requires protected spaces, what I call transformation pods, where you can temporarily step outside your normal, social, and environmental influences to accelerate your evolution. The science behind this is compelling. Research in neuroplasticity shows that the brain's ability to form new neural pathways is significantly enhanced during periods of reduced external input. When you remove the constant bombardment of familiar stimuli, your brain enters a state of enhanced plasticity, becoming more receptive to new patterns and possibilities. Steve Jobs' transformation from college dropout to tech visionary provides a masterclass in strategic isolation. While many focus on his technological innovations, what's less discussed is how deliberately he used isolation to facilitate his personal and professional evolution. During critical periods of innovation and personal transformation, Jobs would create what he called fortress spaces, environments completely insulated from external influences. When developing the original Macintosh, he moved his team to a separate building and flew a pirate flag above it. This wasn't just theatrical, it was a deliberate strategy to create psychological and physical separation from Apple's existing corporate culture. More tellingly, Jobs would regularly undertake periods of complete isolation during major life transitions. After being forced out of Apple in 1985, he didn't immediately jump into new ventures. Instead, he entered an extended period of strategic isolation, traveling to India and spending time in silent reflection. This period wasn't about escaping. It was about creating the mental space necessary for his identity to evolve beyond Apple's founder to become something new. During these isolation periods, Jobs would maintain strict protocols, minimal communication with the outside world, rigid daily routines, and complete focus on internal development rather than external validation. He emerged from each period with clarity and conviction that seemed almost superhuman to others. The isolation protocol operates on 3 levels: physical isolation, creating actual space between yourself and your normal environment; social isolation, temporarily reducing exposure to people who reinforce your current identity; and informational isolation, controlling your input streams to support your transformation. Most transformation attempts fail because they try to occur within the soup of everyday life. It's like trying to rebuild a ship while it's still at sea. The constant waves of external influence make fundamental reconstruction almost impossible. True strategic isolation begins with understanding your identity interference patterns, the specific environmental, social, and informational inputs that keep you locked in your current identity. These patterns must be temporarily suspended to create space for new neural pathways to form. Physical isolation doesn't necessarily mean traveling to a mountaintop, though that can be effective. It can be as simple as creating a dedicated transformation space in your home, where old patterns and influences cannot intrude. This space becomes your personal chrysalis, governed by different rules than the outside world. The social dimension of isolation requires careful curation of your interactions during transformation periods. This doesn't mean cutting off all contact, but rather being strategic about which relationships you engage with during critical evolution phases. Sophia's transformation from frustrated graphic designer to renowned digital artist illustrates these principles in action. Her breakthrough came when she realized that her creative evolution was being stunted by constant exposure to industry trends and peer influence. She began implementing what she called creation cocoons, structured periods of isolation ranging from daily 2-hour blocks to quarterly weekend retreats. During these periods, she would completely disconnect from social media, industry news, and peer feedback. Her studio was reorganized to eliminate any references to current trends or others' work. The daily isolation blocks were non-negotiable. From 5 a.m. to 7 a.m., she would work in complete solitude, with her phone off and email closed. These periods became her transformation laboratory, where she could experiment with new styles and techniques without the immediate influence of external feedback. For deeper evolution, she implemented quarterly evolution retreats, 3-day periods where she would check into a local hotel with strict protocols. No internet, no phone, no external art references. Just her tools, and complete freedom to explore new creative territories. Most importantly, she created what she called influence firewalls, systematic barriers between her transformation periods and potential identity interference. This included turning off all notifications, setting up auto responses to emails, and having clear boundaries with friends and family about her unavailability during these times. The results transcended mere productivity improvements. Within 6 months, her work had evolved so dramatically that her existing clients barely recognized it. She had developed a completely unique style that emerged not from studying others' work, but from giving herself permission to explore her own creative depths in isolation. The Transformation Pod Protocol provides a systematic framework for implementing strategic isolation in your own life. It examines 3 key areas: temporal isolation, when; spatial isolation, where; and behavioral isolation, how. For each area, you must establish clear protocols that create true separation from identity-maintaining influences. Then, systematically implement these protocols in progressively longer periods, starting with daily pods and building to extended transformation retreats. Your challenge today is to design your first transformation pod. Take a piece of paper and create 3 columns: when, where, and how. Under each column, detail the specific parameters of your pod. The time period. Start with 2 to 3 hours. The physical space you'll use, and the exact protocols you'll follow. What's allowed and what isn't. Then, schedule this pod to occur within the next 48 hours. Remember, true transformation requires protected space. What are you willing to temporarily leave behind to become who you're meant to be? Chapter 10. The New Normal. When an Olympic athlete shatters a world record, something fascinating happens in their mind. The celebration lasts mere moments before that extraordinary achievement transforms into something else entirely, their new baseline. That superhuman performance becomes their standard, their expected level of operation. What was once impossible is now simply Tuesday. This same psychological mechanism holds the key to your transformation. The difference between temporary improvement and permanent evolution lies in your ability to systematically elevate your baseline, to make the extraordinary your new normal. Most people approach achievement as a series of peaks to reach. They set a goal, strive toward it, maybe even achieve it, but then they slide back to their comfort zone, treating that achievement as an exception rather than a new standard. This is why so many transformations are temporary. The fundamental error isn't in reaching new heights. It's in failing to establish those heights as your new baseline of acceptable performance. The neuroscience behind this is fascinating. When you consistently operate at a higher level, your brain literally rewires itself to establish new homeostatic set points. What once triggered stress responses becomes your brain's new definition of normal. This process, known as allostatic adaptation, is your biological machinery for establishing new baselines. Michael Phelps provides a masterclass in baseline elevation. While many focus on his Olympic performances, what's truly instructive is how he systematically made the extraordinary his daily standard. His coach, Bob Bowman, implemented what they called the Everyday Excellence Protocol, a system for continuously elevating Phelps' baseline performance levels. Each time Phelps achieved a new level of performance in practice, it immediately became his new minimum standard. If he hit a particular split time in training, that time became the new floor, not the ceiling. Any performance below this new baseline was treated as unacceptable, regardless of how impressive it might have seemed just weeks before. More importantly, this elevation wasn't limited to lap times. Phelps and Bowman applied this principle to every aspect of his preparation: sleep schedule, nutrition, recovery protocols, mental preparation. Each area had clearly defined baseline standards that would have seemed impossible to most athletes. But for Phelps, they were simply Tuesday. The key insight from Phelps's transformation wasn't the height of his achievements, but rather how quickly each new level became his normal operating standard. He didn't treat extraordinary performance as something special. He made it his baseline requirement. This process of baseline elevation operates through what I call the Standards Reset Protocol, a systematic approach to making higher levels of performance your new normal. The protocol works by first identifying your current operating standards, then deliberately elevating them across all relevant domains, while simultaneously eliminating any allowance for reverting to previous levels. The most critical element of this protocol is the elimination of what I call performance elasticity, the tendency to bounce back to lower standards when pressure decreases. Your new standards must be non-negotiable, regardless of circumstances or how you feel on a given day. Think of it like adjusting the thermostat in your house. Once you set it to a new temperature, the system works automatically to maintain that new level as normal. Maya's transformation from struggling freelance designer to founder of a thriving creative agency illustrates these principles in action. Her breakthrough came when she realized that her inconsistent results weren't due to lack of capability, but rather to fluctuating standards. She began by implementing what she called baseline locks, non-negotiable minimum standards for every aspect of her work and personal development. These weren't aspirational targets. They were her new definition of an acceptable baseline. For client work, she established strict quality criteria that had to be met before any project could be considered normal level work. What previously would have been considered exceptional became her minimum acceptable standard. She created detailed rubrics for each type of deliverable, setting standards that initially seemed almost unreasonable. The most powerful aspect of her transformation was how she handled days when meeting these elevated standards felt challenging. Instead of allowing temporary drops in performance, she built what she called standard protection protocols, specific procedures that activated whenever she felt pulled toward lower standards. These protocols included things like extending project timelines if needed, but never compromising on quality standards. She would adjust her schedule, rearrange resources, or work longer hours. But the baseline quality requirements remained absolutely non-negotiable. Within 6 months, what once seemed like impossibly high standards had become her normal operating level. More importantly, this elevation wasn't limited to her work output. She applied the same principle to her professional development, requiring herself to learn one new advanced design technique every week, regardless of her workload or circumstances. The results were transformative. Not only did her work quality reach new levels, but her entire business model evolved. Clients who previously haggled over prices now happily paid premium rates because her new baseline quality exceeded most designers' best work. The Standards Reset Protocol operates through 3 primary mechanisms: standard definition, standard protection, and standard elevation. Standard definition requires explicitly documenting your new baseline requirements in every relevant area. These standards should feel slightly uncomfortable. If they don't create some initial stress, they're probably not high enough. Standard protection involves creating specific procedures that activate when circumstances threaten to pull you below your new baseline. These procedures should be detailed and non-negotiable, eliminating any possibility of just this once exceptions. Standard elevation is the systematic raising of these baseline standards at regular intervals. Once a new standard feels comfortable, it's time to elevate it again. This creates a continuous upward trajectory of personal evolution. Your challenge today is to implement the Standards Reset Protocol in 3 specific areas of your life where you've been accepting mediocrity. For each area, define your new baseline standard. Make it specific and measurable. Document your standard protection procedures. What exactly will you do when meeting this standard becomes difficult? Set a specific date within the next 30 days when you'll elevate this standard again. Remember, excellence isn't something you do occasionally. It's something you make your new normal. Chapter 11. Reality Distortion Field. In the strange world of quantum physics, a fascinating phenomenon occurs. The mere act of observation changes the behavior of particles. This isn't metaphor or philosophy. It's proven science. The implications are staggering. Reality itself bends to the power of focused attention and expectation. Your beliefs don't just interpret your reality, they create it. This isn't wishful thinking or manifestation magic. The neuroscience is clear. Your beliefs create intricate neural networks that literally filter your perception of reality, determining what opportunities you notice, what actions you take, and ultimately, what results you achieve. Think about the last time you bought a new car. Suddenly, you started seeing that exact model everywhere. Those cars were always there, but your brain's reticular activating system, newly programmed to notice them, brought them into your conscious awareness. This same mechanism operates across every aspect of your life, creating what I call your reality filter matrix. The key insight isn't that beliefs influence perception. It's that beliefs can be deliberately engineered to create specific outcomes. This is what I call belief architecture, the systematic construction and maintenance of empowering beliefs that literally reshape your reality. Walt Disney's journey provides a masterclass in reality distortion. Before Disneyland existed, theme parks were notorious for being dirty, dangerous, and unappealing to families. When Disney shared his vision of a clean, safe, immersive entertainment experience where parents and children could enjoy themselves together, he was met with universal skepticism. He faced multiple bankruptcies, countless setbacks, and relentless criticism. But what's fascinating isn't just his persistence. It's how he maintained absolute conviction in his vision, despite overwhelming contrary evidence. He didn't just believe in his vision, he inhabited it completely. Speaking about Disneyland in vivid, present-tense detail years before it existed. Disney developed specific practices to maintain this reality distortion field. He would walk through empty fields, describing in minute detail what visitors would experience in each area. He created detailed storyboards and models, not just as planning tools, but as physical anchors for his unwavering belief. When faced with skepticism, he wouldn't argue. He would simply continue operating from his alternative reality until the physical world caught up with his vision. This ability to maintain unshakable belief, despite contrary evidence, isn't a personality trait. It's a trainable skill. The reality construction framework consists of 3 core practices: vision anchoring, evidence filtering, and reality reinforcement. Vision anchoring involves creating such vivid, detailed mental representations of your desired reality that they become more real to your nervous system than current circumstances. This isn't visualization. It's full neurological immersion in your future reality. Evidence filtering requires systematically directing your attention toward data that supports your vision while contextualizing contrary evidence as temporary and irrelevant. This isn't denial. It's strategic attention management. Reality reinforcement involves creating physical environments and daily practices that make your desired reality feel inevitable rather than aspirational. Victor's transformation of his AI startup illustrates these principles in action. After 2 years of setbacks that would have crushed most entrepreneurs, he maintained such unwavering belief in his vision that he ultimately bent reality to match it. His breakthrough came when he realized that maintaining empowering beliefs requires systematic practice, not just positive thinking. He created what he called reality anchors, physical representations and daily rituals that made his vision feel tangible and inevitable. Each morning he would spend 30 minutes in what he called his future room, a space deliberately designed to represent his company's future success. The walls displayed detailed visualizations of his product roadmap, press coverage he intended to receive, and impact metrics he knew his company would achieve. More importantly, he developed specific protocols for handling contrary evidence. When potential investors rejected his vision or early users criticized his product, he didn't ignore the feedback. Instead, he systematically reframed it through what he called his future lens, asking, "How will this challenge be described in the story of our success?" He maintained detailed evidence logs, documenting every small sign that his vision was manifesting, no matter how minor. A positive comment from a user, a small technical breakthrough, an encouraging conversation. Each piece of evidence was carefully recorded and reviewed daily, creating a growing body of proof that his reality distortion field was working. The most powerful aspect of Victor's practice was his reality reinforcement ritual. Each evening, he would review his company's current challenges, consciously choosing to experience them not as obstacles, but as essential plot points in his success story. He didn't just believe his company would succeed. He operated as if success was already inevitable, making decisions and taking actions from this future reality. When his company's breakthrough finally came, it appeared sudden to outside observers. But Victor understood that the physical manifestation was simply reality, catching up to the unwavering belief he had systematically maintained. The reality construction framework operates through specific neural mechanisms. When you maintain a belief with sufficient intensity and consistency, your reticular activating system begins filtering reality to find evidence supporting that belief. This creates a self-reinforcing cycle. The evidence strengthens the belief, which causes you to notice more supporting evidence. This isn't about denying reality. It's about choosing which reality you give your attention and energy to. Every moment contains multiple potential futures. Your beliefs determine which of these possibilities manifests into physical reality. The framework requires 3 daily practices. Vision immersion. Spend time each morning experiencing your desired reality with all your senses until it feels more real than your current circumstances. Evidence curation. Systematically document and review evidence that supports your vision, while contextualizing contrary evidence as temporary and irrelevant. Reality reinforcement. Create physical anchors and daily rituals that make your desired reality feel present and inevitable. Chapter 12. The Compound Identity Effect. Small changes, consistently applied, create exponential results. This isn't just a principle of mathematics. It's the fundamental law governing all personal transformation. Every thought you entertain, every decision you make, every action you take is silently accumulating, creating an unstoppable momentum that will either elevate or diminish your future self. Most people dramatically overestimate what they can achieve in a day and drastically underestimate what they can become in a year. They seek dramatic breakthroughs while ignoring the quiet power of small, consistent identity shifts. But true transformation doesn't happen in dramatic moments. It happens in the mundane decisions that slowly reshape your neural pathways. The science behind this is fascinating. Each time you make a choice aligned with your desired identity, you strengthen specific neural pathways. These pathways don't just add up, they multiply, creating what neuroscientists call preferential connectivity. Your brain literally becomes rewired to make similar choices easier in the future. This is where the compound identity effect becomes truly powerful. Just as compound interest turns small financial investments into fortunes over time, tiny identity-aligned choices compound into massive personal transformations. Each choice not only affects your current moment, but also influences the likelihood of making similar choices in the future. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's transformation from a failed football player with $7 in his pocket to global icon perfectly illustrates this principle. While many focus on his dramatic physical transformation, the real story lies in the small, consistent choices he made daily. After being cut from the Canadian Football League, Johnson faced a pivotal moment. Rather than viewing this as a catastrophic failure, he made a subtle but crucial identity shift. Instead of seeing himself as a failed football player, he chose to view himself as someone who turned setbacks into comebacks. This seemingly small shift in identity led him to approach his workouts differently. Instead of training just to maintain athletic ability, he began training to build his new identity as an entertainer. He started waking up at 4 a.m., not because he had to, but because that's what his new identity demanded. Each small choice, from how he structured his day to how he interacted with people, was filtered through the lens of his emerging identity as an entertainer and leader. He didn't just work out, he documented his workouts, slowly building his brand. He didn't just do interviews, he studied the art of engaging audiences. The key insight from Johnson's journey isn't the end result. It's how he used tiny, daily choices to gradually reshape his identity. He understood that transformation isn't about making dramatic changes, but about consistently making choices that compound over time. This brings us to the identity compounding matrix, a systematic approach to engineering exponential personal growth through small, deliberate choices. The matrix operates on 3 levels: daily actions, weekly patterns, and monthly identity shifts. The power of this approach is illustrated through Nathan's transformation from burned-out corporate executive to thriving entrepreneur. After hitting rock bottom with severe anxiety and depression, Nathan realized that dramatic changes weren't sustainable. Instead, he began implementing tiny identity shifts that would compound over time. He started with 3 small daily actions, spending 15 minutes each morning reading about successful entrepreneurs, making 1 outreach call to a potential mentor or client, and documenting 1 business idea before bed. These weren't dramatic changes. They required less than an hour total each day. But Nathan understood these weren't just tasks. They were identity-building rituals. Each morning reading session wasn't just about gaining knowledge. It was about gradually shifting his self-image from employee to entrepreneur. Each outreach call wasn't just about networking. It was about reinforcing his identity as someone who takes initiative. He created what he called identity tracking sheets, where he logged not just his actions, but how each small choice aligned with his emerging identity. This wasn't about tracking tasks. It was about documenting his transformation. The first month felt insignificant. He still had his corporate job, still felt overwhelmed, still doubted himself. But slowly, imperceptibly at first, things began to shift. His morning reading led him to identify specific business opportunities. His outreach calls began creating real relationships. His documented ideas started showing patterns and potential. By month 3, these small actions had created enough momentum that he naturally began adding more identity-aligned choices. He started attending entrepreneur meetups, not because he forced himself, but because that's what his emerging identity drew him toward. He began speaking up more in meetings, sharing his business insights, because that's who he was becoming. By month 6, he had enough side business traction to reduce his corporate hours. By month 12, he had transitioned fully into entrepreneurship. By month 18, his business was thriving, and more importantly, his new identity felt completely natural. The key to Nathan's success wasn't making dramatic changes. It was understanding how small, consistent identity shifts compound over time. He didn't try to force himself to become an entrepreneur overnight. Instead, he focused on making tiny choices that aligned with his desired identity, trusting in the compound effect to create lasting transformation. This brings us to the practical application of the identity compounding matrix in your own life. The matrix operates through 3 key principles. Identity-aligned microactions must be small enough to be sustainable, but significant enough to trigger identity shifts. They should take no more than 15 to 20 minutes each and feel slightly uncomfortable, but not overwhelming. These actions must be tracked not just for completion, but for their impact on your self-image. The focus isn't on what you're doing, but on who you're becoming through these actions. The compound effect must be given time to work. Commit to your chosen actions for at least 30 days before evaluating their impact. Your challenge today is to begin leveraging the compound identity effect in your own transformation. Choose 3 tiny actions that align with your desired identity. They must be specific, measurable, and completable within 15 minutes each. Create a simple tracking system focused on identity shifts rather than just task completion. After each action, briefly note how it reinforced your emerging identity. Commit to maintaining these actions for the next 30 days, trusting in the compound effect to create lasting change. Remember, you're not just doing tasks, you're building your future self, one small choice at a time. Chapter 13. Environmental Triggers. You walk into your kitchen and your hand instinctively reaches for the cabinet, the one where you keep the snacks. You're not hungry. You didn't consciously decide to eat. Yet here you are, acting on autopilot, your behavior triggered by nothing more than entering a specific space. This isn't weakness or lack of willpower. It's the invisible power of environmental programming at work. Your environment isn't neutral. Every space you occupy is constantly broadcasting behavioral instructions to your brain, shaping your actions and identity in ways you rarely notice. The layout of your room, the objects in your line of sight, the subtle cues embedded in your surroundings. These elements form a complex web of triggers that either propel you toward or pull you away from your desired identity. The science behind this is fascinating. Research in environmental psychology has shown that up to 95% of our daily behaviors are triggered by our environment rather than conscious choice. This isn't a design flaw in human cognition, it's an efficiency feature. Your brain creates these automatic response patterns to conserve energy and process information more efficiently. But here's where it gets interesting. This same mechanism that can trap you in unproductive patterns can be deliberately engineered to automate excellence. By understanding and applying what I call trigger architecture, you can design environments that automatically activate your desired behaviors and psychological states. Mark Zuckerberg's famous decision to simplify his wardrobe offers a perfect illustration of this principle. While many focus on the surface-level aspect of wearing the same style t-shirt every day, the deeper insight lies in his understanding of environmental trigger design. When Zuckerberg decided to build Facebook into a global technology giant, he recognized that his environment needed to be engineered to automatically trigger states of intense focus and decision-making clarity. By eliminating clothing choices, he wasn't just saving time. He was removing decision triggers that could deplete his cognitive resources before the real work began. He took this principle further, systematically redesigning his entire work environment. His desk was arranged to trigger deep work states, with specific zones for different types of cognitive tasks. He eliminated visual distractions that could trigger context switching. Even his meeting rooms were designed to trigger specific types of thinking and collaboration. The key insight from Zuckerberg's approach wasn't the specific changes he made. It was his understanding that environment shapes behavior automatically. He didn't rely on willpower or motivation. Instead, he created spaces that made his desired behaviors the path of least resistance. This brings us to the environmental programming protocol, a systematic approach to designing spaces that automatically trigger optimal behaviors and states. The protocol operates on 3 levels: physical space design, object placement, and sensory triggers. Elena's transformation through environmental design perfectly illustrates how this protocol works in practice. As a freelance designer struggling with productivity and wellness, Elena realized that her environment was secretly sabotaging her goals. Her workspace was filled with subtle triggers for distraction, her phone always visible, social media notifications enabled, snacks within arm's reach. Her exercise equipment was stored out of sight, requiring multiple steps to access. Her evening routine was constantly disrupted by having her laptop in her bedroom, triggering work thoughts when she needed to rest. Instead of relying on willpower, Elena decided to completely redesign her environment using the environmental programming protocol. She started with her morning routine space. She created what she called a launch pad, a dedicated area that automatically triggered her optimal start-of-day sequence. Her workout clothes and shoes were placed directly in her line of sight upon waking. Her phone charger was relocated to the kitchen, eliminating the morning social media trigger. Her breakfast area was preset each evening with a protein shake and supplements, making healthy choices automatic. Her workspace underwent an even more dramatic transformation. She created distinct zones for different types of work, each with its own trigger architecture. Her deep workstation had no visible technology except her design tablet. Her client call zone was equipped with optimal lighting and background for video meetings. Her creative zone was filled with inspirational imagery and tools that triggered innovative thinking. The most powerful change came in what she eliminated. She removed every object that triggered undesired behaviors: snack containers, distracting devices, anything that could pull her out of flow states. She created what she called friction barriers, additional steps required to engage in behaviors she wanted to minimize. Within 3 months, Elena's productivity had doubled. Her health habits became automatic, rather than forced. Most importantly, she found herself naturally falling into optimal behavior patterns without conscious effort. Her environment was doing the heavy lifting, triggering desired states and actions automatically. This brings us to the practical application of trigger architecture in your own transformation. The protocol consists of 3 key elements. First, you must identify your current trigger landscape, mapping out how your existing environment is programming your behavior. This isn't just about obvious triggers, but also subtle cues that shape your actions and states. Second, you need to design your optimal trigger architecture, deliberately planning spaces that automatically activate desired behaviors and states. This includes both adding positive triggers and eliminating negative ones. Third, you must create what I call trigger chains, sequences of environmental cues that automatically lead you through desired behavior patterns. Each action should naturally trigger the next optimal choice. The key to success is understanding that willpower is a finite resource. Instead of relying on conscious effort, your goal is to design environments that make optimal behaviors automatic and natural. This isn't about forcing yourself to change. It's about creating spaces that naturally evoke your desired identity. Your challenge today is to begin implementing the environmental programming protocol in your own life. Conduct a thorough trigger audit of your primary spaces, home, office, etc. For each space, identify the current triggers that are either supporting or sabotaging your desired behaviors. Be specific. What objects, layouts, or sensory elements are shaping your actions? Choose 3 specific environmental elements to redesign today. These could be as simple as relocating your phone charger or as complex as completely rearranging your workspace. The key is to make changes that automatically trigger desired behaviors without requiring ongoing conscious effort. Create a trigger chain for one key daily routine, a sequence of environmental cues that automatically guide you through optimal behaviors. Document this chain and implement it immediately. Remember, your environment is already programming your behavior. The only question is whether it's doing so by design or by default. Chapter 14. The Social Equation. You're sitting in a room right now, perhaps alone, reading these words. But make no mistake, your transformation journey isn't a solo endeavor. Every person you regularly interact with is either adding momentum to your evolution or subtly anchoring you to your old identity. This isn't theory, it's mathematics. Network science has revealed a startling truth. Your behaviors, beliefs, and even your potential for success are mathematically predictable based on your social circle. When researchers mapped success patterns across different industries, they discovered something remarkable. Breakthrough achievement wasn't just about individual talent or effort. It was about being embedded in the right social network at the right time. This brings us to what I call the social architecture principle. Your relationships aren't just connections. They're the building blocks of your future self. Each person in your life acts as a mirror, reflecting back a version of who you are and who you could become. But here's the crucial insight. These mirrors can either magnify your potential or minimize it. The science behind this is fascinating. Studies in social neuroscience have shown that our brains literally sync up with the people we spend time with. Through a process called neural coupling, we begin to adopt the thought patterns, emotional responses, and even the physiological rhythms of our social circle. This isn't weakness. It's how our brains are wired for survival and adaptation. Jay-Z's transformation from Marcy Projects hustler to billion-dollar business mogul provides a master class in strategic social architecture. While many focus on his musical talent or business acumen, the real key to his evolution was his deliberate reconstruction of his social circle at each stage of his journey. Early in his career, Jay-Z made a crucial observation. The people who could help him become who he needed to be weren't in his current environment. Instead of letting this limit him, he began what he called studying up, deliberately putting himself in proximity to successful business leaders and entrepreneurs, even when it felt uncomfortable. He didn't just network. He strategically cultivated relationships that would expand his identity. When he wanted to move beyond music into business, he didn't spend time with other rappers. He sought out relationships with successful entrepreneurs and corporate leaders. Each new relationship became a bridge to a higher level of achievement and identity. Most critically, Jay-Z understood that social architecture isn't just about adding positive influences. It's about strategically limiting exposure to relationships that reinforce old patterns. He maintained connections to his roots while ensuring these relationships didn't define his trajectory. This brings us to the relationship elevation matrix, a systematic approach to engineering your social environment for maximum growth. The matrix operates on 3 levels: immediate circle, daily interactions; growth circle, mentors and peers who pull you up; and legacy circle, those you lift as you climb. Thomas's transformation through social architecture perfectly illustrates how this matrix works in practice. As a mid-level marketing manager with entrepreneurial aspirations, Thomas realized his current social circle was unconsciously keeping him small. His friends, while supportive, were all employees who viewed entrepreneurship as risky and unrealistic. Instead of making dramatic changes, Thomas began systematically redesigning his social architecture using the relationship elevation matrix. He started with his immediate circle, gradually spending more time with the most ambitious and growth-oriented people in his existing network. For his growth circle, Thomas identified 5 successful tech entrepreneurs he wanted to learn from. Rather than asking for mentorship directly, he found ways to add value to their projects and initiatives. He volunteered at startup events they attended, contributed to online communities they participated in, and gradually built authentic connections. The most powerful shift came in building his legacy circle. Thomas began mentoring aspiring marketers and early-stage founders. This not only reinforced his own learning, but positioned him as a leader in his desired identity space. By teaching others, he accelerated his own transformation. Within 18 months, Thomas's social architecture was completely different. His daily conversations centered around innovation and opportunity rather than job security and market uncertainty. His growth circle provided both practical guidance and identity elevation, showing him what was possible. His legacy circle kept him accountable to his highest standards. The result? Thomas successfully launched his tech startup, securing seed funding within 6 months, something his old social circle would have considered impossible. But more importantly, his new identity, as a tech founder, felt natural because it was constantly reinforced by his social environment. This brings us to the practical application of social architecture in your own transformation. The process consists of 3 key phases. First, you must conduct a relationship audit, honestly assessing how each significant relationship in your life either supports or hinders your evolution. This isn't about judging people, but about understanding their impact on your trajectory. Second, you need to design your ideal social architecture, mapping out the types of relationships that would best support your desired identity. This includes identifying specific individuals or groups that embody where you're going rather than where you've been. Third, you must implement what I call social transition protocols. Systematic approaches to gracefully evolving your relationships without burning bridges or creating unnecessary conflict. The key to success is understanding that social architecture isn't about manipulation or using people. It's about deliberately creating environments where both you and others can grow. Every relationship should be based on authentic connection and mutual value creation. Your challenge today is to begin implementing the relationship elevation matrix in your own life. Conduct a thorough relationship audit using the matrix framework. For each significant relationship in your life, assess whether it's elevating you toward your desired identity or anchoring you to old patterns. Be specific. How does each relationship impact your beliefs, behaviors, and sense of possibility. Choose 3 specific relationships to cultivate in the next 90 days. 1 in each circle of the matrix: immediate, growth, and legacy. Create a specific action plan for strengthening these connections through authentic value creation. Identify 1 relationship that's actively holding you back, and design a specific strategy to either transform or gradually transition out of it, while maintaining respect and compassion. Remember, your social circle is either an elevator or an anchor. The choice of which it becomes is entirely within your control. Chapter 15. Weaponizing Adversity. Picture the strongest steel. Before it reached that state of unbreakable resilience, it endured extreme heat, pressure, and repeated hammering. Each strike, each moment of intense pressure, transformed its molecular structure into something exponentially stronger than its original form. You're no different. The challenges you face aren't obstacles to your transformation. They're the very forces designed to forge you into something extraordinary. But here's what most people miss. Adversity alone doesn't create strength. It's the systematic approach to adversity that determines whether it breaks you or forges you into something unbreakable. This is where the concept of adversity alchemy comes into play. Throughout history, extraordinary achievers have demonstrated a remarkable ability to transmute their greatest challenges into their most powerful advantages. This isn't about positive thinking or finding silver linings. It's about the deliberate reconstruction of adversity into fuel for exponential growth. Research in post-traumatic growth has revealed something fascinating. Individuals who face severe adversity often develop capabilities far beyond their pre-challenge baseline. But this growth isn't automatic. It requires a specific psychological approach to adversity that most people never discover. Nelson Mandela's transformation during his 27-year imprisonment on Robben Island provides a masterclass in adversity alchemy. While most would have been broken by such prolonged confinement, Mandela deliberately used his imprisonment as a laboratory for developing extraordinary leadership capabilities. In the harsh conditions of his cell, Mandela implemented what he called his University of Life, systematically turning every aspect of his imprisonment into training ground for leadership. He studied his guards, learning to understand and influence those who opposed him. He used the monotony of breaking rocks in the prison yard to develop unshakable patience and strategic thinking. Most remarkably, Mandela used his isolation to master emotional regulation and advance persuasion skills. He realized that his guards, despite their role as oppressors, could become unwitting teachers in human psychology. Through careful observation and interaction, he developed such profound emotional intelligence that he could influence even those who initially despised him. The key insight from Mandela's example isn't just about endurance. It's about his systematic approach to converting adversity into advantage. He didn't just survive prison. He deliberately used it as a forge for developing capabilities that would later enable him to transform an entire nation. This brings us to the Challenge Conversion Protocol, a systematic framework for transforming any adversity into fuel for accelerated growth. The protocol operates on 3 levels: immediate response optimization, strategic advantage extraction, and identity elevation through adversity. Adrian's story perfectly illustrates how this protocol works in practice. When his first tech startup failed spectacularly, losing millions in investor funding and publicly damaging his reputation, he found himself at a crucial crossroads. Instead of retreating or trying to quickly start something new, Adrian applied the Challenge Conversion Protocol to transform his failure into rocket fuel for his next venture. First, he optimized his immediate response. Rather than defending his decisions or blaming market conditions, Adrian conducted what he called failure forensics, a systematic analysis of every decision, assumption, and execution flaw that contributed to the failure. He treated his failed startup like a detailed case study, extracting specific lessons that would be impossible to learn any other way. For strategic advantage extraction, Adrian did something unexpected. He started documenting and sharing his failure analysis publicly through a blog series called Expensive Lessons. This transparency not only helped other entrepreneurs avoid similar pitfalls, but also began rebuilding his reputation as someone with valuable, hard-won insights. The most powerful transformation came through identity elevation. Adrian realized that his failed startup had given him something invaluable, a comprehensive understanding of what not to do, and the confidence that comes from surviving a worst-case scenario. He began to see himself not as a failed founder, but as someone who had earned an advanced degree in startup reality. This shift in identity proved crucial when Adrian launched his second venture 18 months later. The lessons from his failure directly informed his new business model, and his hard-won wisdom attracted even more prestigious investors. Within 2 years, his new company surpassed the peak valuation of his failed startup, and within 4 years, it was acquired for 9 figures. The key insight from Adrian's story is that he didn't just bounce back from failure. He systematically transformed it into his greatest asset. Every aspect of his failure became fuel for future success through deliberate application of the challenge conversion protocol. This brings us to your own adversity arsenal. Right now, you're facing challenges that feel like obstacles to your progress. But with the right framework, these very challenges can become the forge that transforms you into someone extraordinary. The first step is conducting what I call an adversity inventory, a systematic assessment of your current challenges and their potential for transformation. This isn't about positive thinking or reframing. It's about identifying specific ways each challenge can be converted into capability. Next comes strategic extraction, identifying the unique advantages hidden within each challenge. Every adversity contains within it specific lessons, insights, or opportunities that would be impossible to gain any other way. Your task is to mine these systematically. Finally, you must implement what I call adversity integration, deliberately incorporating the lessons and capabilities developed through adversity into your new identity. This isn't about overcoming challenges. It's about being transformed by them. Your challenge today is to begin this process of adversity alchemy. Take your 3 biggest current challenges, the ones that feel most like obstacles to your progress. For each one, apply the challenge conversion protocol. First, document the specific capabilities this challenge is forcing you to develop. Be detailed. What skills, insights, or strengths can only be forged through this particular adversity? Second, identify 3 specific ways each challenge gives you an advantage that others don't have. How does this difficulty provide you with unique opportunities for growth or insight? Finally, create a concrete action plan for the next 30 days that deliberately uses each challenge as a training ground for accelerated growth. What specific steps will you take to ensure this adversity strengthens rather than weakens you? Remember, the difference between those who are broken by adversity and those who are strengthened by it isn't luck or resilience. It's their systematic approach to converting challenges into fuel for transformation. Chapter 16, The Achievement Protocol. Think about the last time you boarded a commercial flight. As you settled into your seat, did you worry whether the pilot felt motivated enough to fly safely that day? Of course not. That's because commercial aviation doesn't rely on motivation or willpower. It operates on meticulously designed systems and protocols that make success automatic and inevitable. This simple observation reveals a profound truth about achievement. Sustainable success isn't built on motivation, willpower, or talent. It's built on systems that make success the default outcome. Yet most people approach their goals like amateur pilots, trying to fly by feel, relying on bursts of motivation, stretches of willpower, and hoping for the best. They create vision boards, set ambitious goals, and wait for inspiration to strike. This approach isn't just ineffective, it's dangerous. Just as you wouldn't want to fly with a pilot who operates on inspiration rather than instruments, you can't build extraordinary achievement on the shifting sands of motivation. This brings us to the concept of success architecture, the systematic design of environments, protocols, and triggers that make desired outcomes automatic and inevitable. Think of it as building a machine that produces success as reliably as a factory produces products. Richard Branson's systematic approach to business creation provides a masterclass in success architecture. While many focus on Branson's charismatic personality, the real key to his success lies in the repeatable systems he's built for launching and scaling businesses across diverse industries. Early in his career, Branson realized that relying on individual brilliance or motivation wouldn't scale. Instead, he developed what he called the Virgin Way, a systematic approach to identifying opportunities, building teams, and scaling operations that could be replicated across any industry. The core of Branson's system wasn't about having brilliant ideas. It was about having brilliant processes. He created detailed protocols for everything from market analysis to team building. Each new venture followed the same systematic approach. Identify an industry ripe for disruption, assemble a team using specific criteria, implement standardized operational systems, and scale through predetermined growth protocols. This systematic approach allowed Virgin to expand successfully into music, airlines, telecommunications, and space travel, industries that seemed to have nothing in common. The success wasn't dependent on Branson's expertise in each field. He freely admits he's not an expert in most of them. Instead, it relied on the robustness of his systems for building and scaling businesses. Most importantly, Branson's systems worked regardless of his personal state on any given day. Whether he felt motivated or not, whether he was present or absent, the systems continued producing results. This is the true power of success. Architecture. It makes achievement independent of temporary emotional states or individual effort. The matrix operates on 3 levels: input automation, process automation, and decision automation. Olivia's transformation of her struggling consultancy provides a perfect illustration of the automation matrix in action. When she first started her business, everything depended on her personal effort and daily motivation. Some days, she'd be highly productive. Others, she'd barely get anything done. This inconsistency was slowly killing her business. Through careful application of the automation matrix, Olivia systematically removed herself as the bottleneck in her business. She started with input automation, creating systems that automatically generated qualified leads through a combination of content marketing and strategic partnerships. This eliminated the feast or famine cycle of client acquisition that had plagued her business. Next, she implemented process automation, developing standardized protocols for everything from initial client consultations to project delivery. Each client engagement followed the same systematic approach, ensuring consistent quality regardless of her personal energy levels or time constraints. Finally, she created decision automation protocols, clear criteria, and decision trees for everything from pricing to project acceptance. This eliminated the mental energy drain of constant decision-making and ensured consistent, high-quality choices even under pressure. The results were transformative. Within 6 months, her business was running more smoothly than ever, but requiring less direct effort from her. Revenue increased by 147%, while her working hours decreased by 30%. Most importantly, the success became consistent and predictable, rather than dependent on bursts of motivation or Herculean effort. The key insight from Olivia's story isn't just about business systems. It's about the power of removing willpower and motivation from the success equation. By building systems that made success automatic, she transformed not just her business, but her entire relationship with achievement. This brings us to your own success architecture. Right now, you're probably relying on motivation and willpower in areas where you could be building systems instead. Every time you have to make a conscious decision to do the right thing. Every time you need to pump yourself up to take action, you're operating without proper systems. The first step is conducting what I call a willpower audit. Identifying areas in your life where you're currently relying on motivation rather than systems. Look for patterns where success is inconsistent or requires significant emotional energy to maintain. Next comes system design, creating specific protocols that make desired behaviors automatic rather than requiring conscious effort. This isn't about complexity. Often the simplest systems are the most effective. Chapter 17. Mental Mastery. Every single thought firing through your neural pathways right now is physically rewiring your brain. This isn't metaphorical, it's pure neuroscience. Each mental pattern you entertain, whether empowering or limiting, is carving neural highways that determine your future capabilities. Your brain is the most sophisticated supercomputer on Earth, yet most people let it run on autopilot, allowing random thoughts and reactive patterns to program their neural architecture. The implications of this reality are staggering. Your thought patterns aren't just fleeting mental experiences. They're physical sculptors of your brain's architecture. Every anxious spiral, every moment of self-doubt, every limiting belief is literally building neural pathways that make those states more likely to recur. But here's the extraordinary flip side. Every intentional thought pattern, every deliberately maintained state of confidence or focus, is equally constructing neural infrastructure that makes excellence automatic. This brings us to the science of cognitive architecture, the deliberate design and maintenance of optimal mental states through systematic neural programming. Just as a software engineer writes code to create specific computer behaviors, you can systematically program your neural hardware for peak performance. The process begins with understanding the three-layer model of mental states. Baseline patterns, your default mental programming. Trigger responses, how you react to stimuli. And intentional states, deliberately generated mental conditions. Most people operate entirely at the mercy of the first two layers, letting their baseline patterns and trigger responses control their mental state. True mental mastery requires taking control of all three layers through systematic reprogramming. Tom Brady's approach to mental conditioning provides a masterclass in cognitive architecture. While many focus on his physical preparation, Brady's true edge comes from his systematic approach to mental state control. Early in his career, Brady realized that physical talent alone wouldn't be enough. He needed complete mastery over his mental state to perform consistently at the highest level. Working with performance psychologists, Brady developed what he calls his mental operating system, a comprehensive approach to maintaining optimal mental states under extreme pressure. The system begins with careful monitoring of baseline mental patterns. Brady meticulously tracks his thought patterns throughout the day, identifying and eliminating mental habits that don't serve peak performance. But Brady's real innovation came in his approach to trigger responses. Instead of trying to eliminate pressure or stress triggers, Brady systematically reprogrammed his response to them. Through specific visualization, protocols, and mental rehearsal techniques, he reconstructed his neural pathways to interpret pressure as energizing rather than debilitating. Most importantly, Brady developed systematic approaches for generating and maintaining peak mental states on demand. Before every game, he follows a precise mental preparation protocol that reliably produces his optimal performance state. This isn't about motivation or psyching himself up. It's about following proven neural programming sequences that automatically generate desired mental conditions. The results speak for themselves. Brady's ability to maintain extraordinary performance well into his 40s, consistently executing under pressure in ways that seem to defy natural limits. His success isn't about natural talent, it's about systematic mental mastery. This brings us to the State Control Protocol, a comprehensive framework for developing complete control over your mental states. The protocol operates through three primary mechanisms: state identification, trigger mapping, and state generation. Cameron's transformation from an anxiety-prone middle manager to a confident executive illustrates the power of systematic mental mastery. When Cameron first started leading teams, he found himself constantly hijacked by anxiety and self-doubt. Every challenging conversation, every important presentation became an exercise in mental torture. Instead of accepting this as just how he was, Cameron approached his mental state as a technical problem to be solved. He began by meticulously mapping his mental states throughout the day, identifying exactly what triggered anxiety and what preceded periods of natural confidence. Through this process, Cameron discovered that his anxiety wasn't random. It followed specific neural pathways triggered by identifiable conditions. Armed with this understanding, he began systematically reprogramming these triggers using the State Control Protocol. First, he created what he called state anchors, specific physical and mental patterns that he could use to quickly generate desired mental states. Through consistent practice, he learned to shift from anxiety to confidence, using precise breathing patterns, combined with particular visualization sequences. Next, he implemented trigger transformation, systematically reprogramming his response to situations that previously generated anxiety. When facing challenging conversations, instead of allowing his old neural pathways to activate anxiety, he would deliberately engage his new programming through specific mental sequences. Most importantly, Cameron developed what he called his confidence operating system, a set of daily practices that strengthened his neural pathways for confidence while weakening anxiety patterns. This included morning mental programming sessions, regular state control practice, and evening review protocols to reinforce optimal patterns. The results were remarkable. Within 6 months, Cameron's team noticed a complete transformation in his leadership presence. Situations that once triggered visible anxiety now showcased calm confidence. His decision-making improved dramatically as he maintained clear mental states under pressure. Most importantly, his new mental mastery created a ripple effect throughout his team, elevating everyone's performance. The key insight from Cameron's story isn't just about confidence. It's about the systematic nature of mental mastery. He didn't try to motivate himself into confidence or use positive thinking. Instead, he built reliable systems for generating and maintaining optimal mental states. This brings us to your own mental mastery journey. Right now, your neural pathways are either working for you or against you. There's no neutral ground in brain architecture. Every mental pattern you allow is either strengthening pathways that serve your evolution or reinforcing limitations that hold you back. Your challenge for the next 7 days is to begin taking systematic control of your mental architecture. First, identify the 3 most common suboptimal mental states that limit your performance. These might be anxiety, self-doubt, procrastination, or any other patterns that consistently hold you back. For each of these states, carefully map the triggers that reliably create them. Be specific. What situations, thoughts, or conditions consistently precede these mental states? Finally, implement the State Control Protocol. For each trigger, design and practice a specific mental sequence that generates your desired state instead of the default pattern. Focus on making these sequences simple and repeatable. They should work even under pressure. Track your results daily, noting both successes and failures. Remember, You're not trying to be perfect. You're building new neural architecture. Each repetition of your new patterns, even if not entirely successful, is physically rebuilding your brain's circuitry. Chapter 18. Physical Intelligence. Stand up right now. Roll your shoulders back, lift your chest, and raise your chin slightly. Feel that? That instant shift in your emotional state wasn't random. It was your body literally rewiring your brain chemistry in real time. Every physical position you adopt, every movement pattern you engage in, is actively programming your psychological software. The connection between physical stance and mental state isn't just metaphorical. It's hardwired into your nervous system through millions of years of evolution. When you adopt a powerful stance, your testosterone levels increase by up to 20%, while your cortisol levels drop by 25%. These hormonal shifts don't just influence how you feel. They fundamentally alter how you think, decide, and act. This brings us to somatic programming, the systematic use of physical intelligence to accelerate psychological transformation. Your body isn't just a vehicle for your mind. It's the primary interface through which you experience and interact with reality. By deliberately programming your physical patterns, you can literally rewire your mental operating system from the bottom up. The process works through three primary mechanisms. Postural feedback loops, how your position influences your psychology. Movement patterns, how your physical behaviors shape your mental states. And embodied practice, how deliberate physical training rewires your nervous system. Tony Robbins' transformation from a struggling janitor to the world's leading performance coach provides a masterclass in physical intelligence. While many focus on his motivational speaking, Robbins' true innovation came in recognizing how systematic physical practices could reliably generate powerful mental states. Early in his career, Robbins discovered that he could consistently create peak performance states through specific movement patterns and breathing techniques. This wasn't just about feeling good. It was about deliberately engineering his nervous system for optimal function. Robbins developed what he calls state priming, a systematic approach to using physical practices to generate desired mental conditions. Before every seminar, he follows a precise physical protocol, specific movement patterns, breathing exercises, and postural adjustments that reliably create his peak performance state. But Robbins' most powerful insight was in understanding how physical patterns could be used to break negative mental states. When working with clients stuck in depression or anxiety, he would first change their physiology, forcing them to move differently, breathe differently, hold themselves differently. The psychological shifts that followed weren't temporary mood changes. They were fundamental rewirings of their nervous system. The science behind this approach is fascinating. Research shows that simply holding a pencil between your teeth, forcing a smile position, increases activity in the happiness centers of your brain. Your nervous system can't tell the difference between a real smile and a forced one. It responds to the physical pattern itself. This brings us to the body-mind matrix, a comprehensive framework for using physical intelligence to accelerate psychological transformation. The matrix operates through three primary channels: stance programming, deliberate posture adjustments, movement protocols, systematic physical patterns, and state anchoring, linking specific physical actions to desired mental states. Grace's transformation from struggling with imposter syndrome to embodying natural leadership illustrates the power of systematic physical intelligence. As a newly promoted executive, Grace found herself constantly undermined by self-doubt and anxiety, particularly during important meetings and presentations. Instead of trying to think her way out of these limitations, Grace approached the problem through physical intelligence. Working with a somatic coach, she began mapping the physical patterns associated with her confidence and anxiety states. She discovered that her imposter syndrome had clear physical signatures: shallow breathing, collapsed chest, tension in her shoulders. More importantly, she found that her natural confidence also had consistent physical patterns: deep breathing, expanded posture, relaxed but engaged muscle tone. Armed with this understanding, Grace developed what she called her leadership embodiment practice, a systematic approach to programming confident states through physical adjustments. Before every meeting, she would engage specific breathing patterns and postural adjustments that reliably generated her optimal leadership state. She created micro-practices that she could engage during meetings, subtle physical adjustments that would instantly shift her state when self-doubt emerged. These weren't just coping mechanisms. They were deliberate rewiring protocols for her nervous system. Most importantly, Grace developed daily physical practices that strengthened her nervous system's capacity for confidence. This included morning movement protocols, regular posture training, and specific breathing exercises designed to make confidence her new baseline state. The results were remarkable. Within 3 months, colleagues noticed a complete transformation in her leadership presence. Situations that once triggered visible anxiety now showcased natural authority. Her decision-making improved dramatically as she maintained embodied confidence under pressure. Most importantly, her team began unconsciously mirroring her confident physical patterns, creating a ripple effect of enhanced performance. Your physical patterns right now are either reinforcing your limitations or programming your evolution. There's no neutral ground in somatic intelligence. Every posture you adopt, every movement pattern you engage, is either strengthening neural pathways that serve your growth or reinforcing patterns that hold you back. Your challenge for the next 10 days is to begin taking systematic control of your physical intelligence. First, identify 3 key mental states essential for your success. These might be confidence, focus, creativity, or any other states that directly impact your performance. For each of these states, design a specific physical practice that reliably generates that state. This should include precise postural adjustments, breathing patterns, and movement sequences. Implement these practices daily, treating them as serious programming sessions for your nervous system. Track your results, noting both the immediate and cumulative effects on your mental states. Remember, you're not just changing how you feel, you're literally rewiring your nervous system's baseline operating patterns. Each repetition of your physical practices is physically rebuilding your brain's circuitry for optimal performance. Chapter 19. Identity Anchoring. You're standing at the helm of your life, feeling the wind of transformation in your sails. The old shores of limitation fade behind you as new horizons of possibility stretch ahead. But here's the crucial question that will determine whether this journey leads to lasting change or merely becomes another failed attempt at reinvention. How will you ensure your transformation endures when the storms come? Every day, countless people experience moments of breakthrough, glimpsing their true potential and taking bold steps toward change. Yet too often, these powerful shifts prove temporary, as the gravitational pull of old patterns slowly but surely draws them back to familiar shores. This isn't due to lack of commitment or desire. It's because they haven't mastered the art of identity anchoring. Think of your transformed identity like a magnificent ship. No matter how powerful its engines or skilled its crew, without proper anchors, it remains at the mercy of every current and tide. The same principle applies to personal transformation. Without robust anchoring systems, even the most dramatic changes can drift back to old patterns when life's inevitable challenges arise. The science of identity stability reveals a fascinating truth. Your brain actively resists permanent change, constantly seeking to return to familiar patterns, what neuroscientists call homeostatic equilibrium. This isn't a design flaw. It's a survival mechanism that helped our ancestors maintain consistency in dangerous environments. But in today's world of rapid change and unlimited potential, this same mechanism can become our greatest obstacle to lasting transformation. Robert Downey Jr.'s journey from addiction to sustained recovery and unprecedented success offers a masterclass in identity anchoring. While many focus on his initial transformation, the true genius lies in how he systematically anchored his new identity through multiple reinforcement channels. After achieving sobriety, Downey Jr. recognized that willpower alone wouldn't sustain his transformation. He implemented what he calls his Security Council, a systematic network of daily practices, relationships, and environmental structures designed to reinforce his new identity. This included morning meditation routines, regular martial arts training, and strategic professional choices that aligned with his recovered identity. Most notably, Downey Jr. created what he terms non-negotiable anchors, specific practices that remained constant regardless of circumstances. Whether filming on location or dealing with personal challenges, these anchors provided stability during turbulent times. He maintained regular check-ins with his support network, continued his daily wellness practices, and consistently chose roles that reinforced his transformed identity rather than risking triggers associated with his past. But perhaps his most powerful anchoring technique was what he calls identity reinforcement through contribution, using his experience to help others facing similar challenges. By becoming a mentor and advocate for recovery, he created an external accountability structure that made maintaining his transformation not just about personal benefit, but about responsibility to others. The key insight from Downey Jr.'s journey isn't just that transformation is possible, it's that sustainable transformation requires systematic anchoring through multiple channels: physical practices, environmental design, relationship structures, and contribution to others. This brings us to the Anchor Protocol, a comprehensive system for making personal transformation permanent. The protocol operates through three primary channels: internal anchors, daily practices and rituals; external anchors, environmental and relationship structures; and transcendent anchors, contribution and purpose-driven commitments. Isabella's transformation from chronic procrastinator to highly productive entrepreneur illustrates the power of systematic identity anchoring. After years of struggling with time management and project completion, Isabella experienced a breakthrough moment during a productivity workshop. But unlike previous attempts at change, this time she approached her transformation through the lens of identity anchoring. First, she established what she calls her productivity anchors, specific daily practices designed to reinforce her new identity as a highly effective person. This included a morning routine that began with reviewing her top priorities before touching any devices, regular time blocking sessions, and end-of-day reflection practices. But Isabella went beyond just personal practices. She redesigned her entire work environment to anchor her new identity, creating what she termed productivity triggers, environmental cues that automatically activated her new patterns. Her desk was arranged to minimize distractions. Her phone settings were optimized for focus, and she established clear boundaries between work and relaxation spaces. Most importantly, Isabella built relationship anchors to sustain her transformation. She joined a mastermind group of highly productive entrepreneurs, created accountability partnerships, and regularly shared her productivity systems with others struggling with similar challenges. This external reinforcement made her new identity feel not just personal, but social. She became known as someone others could count on to deliver results. The results were remarkable. Within 6 months, Isabella's productivity hadn't just improved, it had become her natural state. Even during high-stress periods or personal challenges, her anchored patterns maintained stability. She had transformed procrastination from a persistent struggle into a distant memory. The key to Isabella's success wasn't just in the initial change, it was in the systematic anchoring of her new identity through multiple reinforcement channels. Each anchor served as a stabilizing force, ensuring that her transformation remained solid even in turbulent times. Your transformed identity is too precious to leave vulnerable to the winds of circumstance. Every new pattern you've developed, every breakthrough you've experienced, requires proper anchoring to become permanent. The next 7 days are crucial for cementing your transformation through systematic identity anchoring. Chapter 20. The Leadership Effect. Think about the last time you taught someone a skill you had mastered. Did you notice how explaining it forced you to understand it more deeply? How breaking it down for someone else revealed nuances you hadn't consciously processed before? This phenomenon, what neuroscientists call the protégé effect, reveals a fascinating paradox. Teaching accelerates learning more effectively than studying alone. But this goes far beyond mere skill acquisition. When you step into a leadership role in someone else's transformation journey, you activate what I call the leadership acceleration effect, a powerful multiplier that dramatically accelerates your own evolution. This isn't just about teaching. It's about creating a symbiotic growth relationship where guiding others becomes the catalyst for your own exponential development. The science behind this is compelling. Research in neural coupling shows that when we engage in teaching or mentoring, our brains literally sync with those we're guiding, creating enhanced neural pathways that strengthen our own understanding and capabilities. This process triggers what neuropsychologists call metacognitive elaboration, a deeper processing of information that leads to more permanent learning and behavioral change. Michelle Obama's transformation through her mentorship programs offers a powerful illustration of the leadership acceleration effect in action. While many focus on her role as First Lady, it was her work with young women, through initiatives like Let Girls Learn, that catalyzed her most profound personal growth. Initially, Obama approached mentoring as a way to give back, but she soon discovered it was transforming her own capabilities in unexpected ways. As she guided young women through their challenges, she found herself developing enhanced emotional intelligence, stronger public speaking skills, and deeper resilience. Her mentees' questions forced her to articulate her own journey more clearly, leading to new insights about her own transformation. Most notably, Obama developed what she calls her ripple effect strategy. Understanding that by helping others transform, she created waves of change that ultimately reinforced and accelerated her own growth. She noticed that each time she helped a young woman overcome an obstacle, her own ability to tackle similar challenges increased exponentially. The key insight from Obama's experience isn't just that helping others is rewarding. It's that leadership becomes a powerful accelerant for personal transformation. By guiding others, she wasn't just teaching. She was reinforcing and expanding her own capabilities through what psychologists call elaborative rehearsal, the process of deepening understanding through teaching and application. This brings us to the leadership leverage matrix, a systematic approach to accelerating your own transformation through guided leadership of others. The matrix operates through 3 primary channels: direct mentorship, one-on-one guidance; group facilitation, leading small groups; and community building, creating supportive transformation environments. Marcus's journey from struggling with fitness to becoming a transformation catalyst illustrates the power of the leadership leverage matrix in action. After years of yo-yo dieting and inconsistent workout routines, Marcus finally cracked the code on sustainable fitness. But instead of focusing solely on his own progress, he made a crucial decision. He would help others on similar journeys. Starting with just 3 friends who had asked about his transformation, Marcus created what he called a fitness accountability pod, a small group that met weekly to share progress, challenges, and strategies. Initially, he worried that taking on this leadership role might distract from his own goals. Instead, the opposite occurred. As Marcus guided his small group through their fitness journeys, he found himself developing deeper insights into his own patterns and behaviors. Having to articulate his strategies, forced him to clarify his thinking. Answering their questions revealed gaps in his knowledge that he then worked to fill. Most importantly, knowing others were counting on his leadership strengthened his commitment to his own standards. Marcus implemented what he called leadership loops, systematic ways to turn each teaching moment into personal growth. When a group member struggled with emotional eating, helping them understand their triggers deepened his own emotional awareness. When someone needed help with proper form, demonstrating and explaining exercises enhanced his own technique. The results were remarkable. Within 6 months, not only had his original group members achieved significant transformations, but Marcus's own fitness and mindset had reached levels he hadn't thought possible. The act of leading others had accelerated his growth far beyond what solo efforts had achieved. Your own transformation gains incredible momentum when you begin guiding others through similar journeys. Each person you help becomes not just a success story, but a catalyst for your own accelerated growth. The leadership. Leverage Matrix provides the framework for turning your progress into a powerful tool for both others and your own development. Your challenge is to implement the leadership initiation protocol first. Identify one area where you've made significant progress in your transformation. This becomes your leadership domain. Next, find 3 people who are currently facing challenges you've overcome in this area. Finally, create a specific plan to begin guiding them within the next 7 days, whether through one-on-one mentorship, group sessions, or regular check-ins. Remember, leading others through transformation isn't just about giving back. It's about creating a powerful acceleration effect that takes your own journey to entirely new levels. Your growth multiplies when you help others grow. Chapter 21. The Art of Quantum Living. This isn't metaphysical speculation. It's grounded in both quantum mechanics and advanced psychological research. Just as particles exist in multiple states until observed, your identity exists as a field of possibilities until crystallized through conscious awareness and action. By learning to maintain simultaneous awareness of both your current and future states, you create what psychologists call identity interference patterns, powerful resonances that accelerate personal evolution. The key insight is that identity isn't a fixed point, but a dynamic wave function of possibilities. When you learn to hold both your present and future states in conscious awareness, you create what I call identity superposition, Andisao, a heightened state of evolutionary potential where transformation occurs at an accelerated rate. This goes beyond simple visualization or affirmation. It's about developing the capacity to literally operate from multiple identity states simultaneously. The neuroscience behind this is fascinating. Research in neuroplasticity shows that the brain can't fully distinguish between vividly imagined states and physical reality. When you learn to maintain conscious awareness of your future identity while operating in your present state, you create new neural pathways that bridge the gap between who you are and who you're becoming. This dual state awareness literally rewires your brain for accelerated transformation. Keanu Reeves provides a compelling illustration of identity superposition in action. While many actors struggle to reconcile their public persona with their private identity, Reeves has mastered the art of existing simultaneously in multiple identity states. Global superstar and humble student, action hero and contemplative philosopher, wealthy celebrity, and generous everyday person. What makes Reeves's example particularly instructive isn't just his ability to maintain these seemingly contradictory states, but how he uses this capacity to accelerate his own evolution. In interviews, he's described his approach to character work not as becoming someone else, but as expanding who I am to include new possibilities. This subtle but crucial distinction highlights the essence of identity superposition. Most notably, Reeves developed what he calls his both-and awareness, the ability to fully embody massive success while maintaining genuine humility. Rather than toggling between states or letting one override the other, he learned to operate from both simultaneously. This dual-state awareness allowed him to navigate Hollywood's pressures while continuing to grow authentically as an artist and human being. The key insight from Reeves's experience isn't just that multiple identity states can coexist. It's that maintaining awareness of both accelerates personal evolution in unique ways. By refusing to abandon either his groundedness or his expanding capabilities, he created a dynamic tension that continually pulled him toward greater integration and achievement. This brings us to the State Integration Protocol, a systematic approach to developing and maintaining dual-state awareness in your own life. The protocol operates through three primary channels: conscious calibration, maintaining simultaneous awareness of current and future states; dynamic integration, finding ways to express future capabilities through current circumstances; and identity field expansion, gradually increasing the range of states you can hold simultaneously. Layla's journey from struggling artist to successful creative entrepreneur illustrates the power of the State Integration Protocol in action. After years of feeling torn between her artistic aspirations and practical realities, she made a crucial discovery. She could operate from both states simultaneously rather than seeing them as an either-or choice. Starting with just 15 minutes each morning, Layla practiced what she called quantum journaling, writing simultaneously from her current state of uncertainty and her future state of established success. Initially, this felt like an artificial exercise, but she soon noticed something fascinating. Solutions and opportunities began emerging that weren't visible from either state alone. Instead of waiting to feel successful enough to take certain actions, Layla began implementing what she called quantum actions, steps that made sense from both her current and future perspectives. She would send emails to potential collaborators that acknowledged her current position while confidently expressing her future capabilities. She structured her pricing to reflect both her present skill level and her expanding value. Most importantly, she developed specific practices for maintaining dual-state awareness throughout her day. When facing decisions, she would consciously consider both her current limitations and her future possibilities, finding creative ways to bridge the gap. Rather than seeing this as internal conflict, she recognized it as creative tension that generated new solutions. The results were remarkable. Within 8 months, Layla's art career had accelerated beyond what years of traditional effort had achieved. By operating simultaneously from both her emerging and established states, she accessed insights and opportunities that neither perspective alone could have generated. Her ability to maintain quantum awareness had literally collapsed time, bringing future possibilities into present reality. The State Integration Protocol provides the framework for developing this same capacity in your own transformation journey. Each moment becomes an opportunity to operate, not just from who you are, but from who you're becoming. This dual-state awareness creates an accelerated field of possibility where transformation occurs at quantum speed. Your challenge is to begin developing quantum awareness through the 21-day state integration practice. First, identify 3 specific characteristics of your future identity: capabilities, behaviors, or ways of being that represent who you're becoming. Each morning for the next 21 days, spend 5 minutes consciously experiencing both your current state and these future characteristics simultaneously. Don't try to switch between them. Practice holding both awareness simultaneously. Pay careful attention to how this dual-state awareness affects your choices, perceptions, and actions throughout the day. Remember, quantum living isn't about denying your current reality or losing yourself in future fantasies. It's about learning to operate from both states simultaneously, creating an accelerated field of transformation that collapses time and possibility into immediate reality. Chapter 22. Legacy Design. You wake up each morning focused on today's tasks, this week's goals, maybe even this year's ambitions. But what if you zoomed out, way out, to consider how your transformation story will echo through generations? Picture a leather-bound book discovered by your great-grandchildren, detailing the pivotal moments of your life's evolution. What chapters would make them lean in closer, eyes wide with inspiration? What transformation tale would ignite their own journey toward greatness? This isn't about ego or leaving your name on buildings. It's about understanding that your personal transformation creates ripple effects far beyond your immediate sphere. Every time you break through a limitation, challenge an assumption, or expand what's possible, you're not just changing your life. You're altering the fabric of possibility for generations to come. The science of legacy impact reveals fascinating insights about how personal transformation cascades through time. Research in epigenetics shows that significant life changes can actually modify gene expression patterns that pass to future generations. But beyond biology, your transformation story becomes part of the narrative inheritance you leave behind, a blueprint for possibility that shapes how future generations approach their own potential. This brings us to legacy architecture, the systematic design of personal transformation to maximize long-term impact. Unlike traditional goal setting that focuses on immediate achievements, legacy architecture operates on three concurrent timescales: immediate impact, personal transformation; medium-range influence, community and organizational change; and long-term legacy, generational impact. Muhammad Ali's evolution from controversial boxing champion to global humanitarian icon provides a masterclass in legacy architecture. While many remember Ali for his athletic achievements, his most profound transformation occurred after his boxing career, when he consciously reshaped his identity to create lasting social impact. Early in his career, Ali was often seen as divisive and confrontational, but rather than simply trying to soften his image, he undertook a deliberate process of identity expansion. He recognized that his true legacy wouldn't be about boxing records, but about how he used his platform to affect global change. What's particularly instructive about Ali's transformation was his systematic approach to legacy building. He developed what he called his anchor principles, core values and behaviors that would guide every decision and interaction. These weren't just personal guidelines. They were designed specifically to create ripple effects through communities and generations. Most notably, Ali mastered what he called legacy moments, consciously using every interaction, from global speeches to one-on-one encounters, as opportunities to transmit values and inspire transformation in others. He understood that legacy isn't built through occasional grand gestures, but through consistent alignment between personal growth and broader impact. The key insight from Ali's journey isn't just that he transformed himself, but that he deliberately designed that transformation to catalyze change in others. Every step of his evolution was filtered through the question, how will this impact future generations? This brings us to the Impact Cascade Protocol, a systematic approach to ensuring your transformation creates lasting ripple effects. The protocol operates through three primary channels: identity expansion, growing beyond personal achievement to focus on impact; value transmission, consciously designing how your transformation story will inspire others; and legacy amplification, creating systems and structures that extend your impact beyond your direct influence. Xavier's journey from frustrated community activist to national movement leader illustrates the Impact Cascade Protocol in action. After years of working on local initiatives with limited success, Xavier made a crucial discovery. His personal transformation could become a catalyst for broader social change. Rather than focusing solely on external actions, Xavier began what he called legacy-centered transformation. he identified the core values and capabilities he needed to develop to create lasting impact. Instead of just learning leadership skills, he developed what he called his legacy voice, a way of communicating that consistently inspired others to recognize and act on their own potential for impact. Most importantly, Xavier created specific practices for ensuring his personal growth translated into broader change. He developed what he called impact rituals, daily actions designed to connect his individual transformation to larger movement building. Each morning, he would identify one way his personal growth work could directly benefit his community. Each evening, he would document specific instances where his transformation had inspired or enabled others to grow. The results were remarkable. Within 2 years, Xavier's local initiative had evolved into a national movement, with chapters in 12 cities. But the real success wasn't in the numbers. It was in how his personal transformation story became a template that others could adapt and apply in their own communities. By consciously designing his growth to create ripple effects, he had built something that would continue expanding long after his direct involvement. The Impact Cascade Protocol provides the framework for designing your own legacy-centered transformation. Each choice becomes an opportunity not just for personal growth, but for creating lasting impact that extends across generations. This isn't about pressure or grandiosity. It's about recognizing that your transformation has the power to light the way for others. Your challenge is to begin your legacy design through the 3 Horizons exercise. First, identify 3 specific aspects of your desired legacy. 1 personal, how you want to be remembered by family. 1 community-focused, how you want to impact your immediate sphere. And 1 global, how you want to influence the wider world. For each aspect, create a concrete action plan with specific steps you can begin implementing within the next 24 hours. Remember, legacy isn't about distant future impact. It's about aligning your current transformation with the long-term change you want to create. Chapter 23, The Infinity Principle. Every morning, you look in the mirror and see someone who's changing. Not just the subtle signs of aging, but the marks of deliberate evolution. Yet there's a question that haunts many transformation journeys. When do I arrive? The answer challenges everything you think you know about personal growth. You never arrive, and that's precisely the point. In nature, the moment any organism stops evolving is the moment it begins dying. The same principle applies to human potential. Those who view transformation as a finite process, something with a clear endpoint, are unknowingly planning their own obsolescence. True masters understand that evolution isn't a phase. It's a permanent state of being. The neuroscience of continuous adaptation reveals fascinating insights about our capacity for infinite growth. Studies of neuroplasticity show that the brain maintains its ability to form new neural pathways throughout life, but only when consistently challenged with novel experiences and learning. This biological imperative for continuous growth extends beyond our brains to our very identity. This brings us to the concept of infinite evolution, a systematic approach to making transformation your natural state, rather than a temporary process. Unlike traditional personal development models that focus on reaching specific goals, infinite evolution creates self-sustaining cycles of growth that generate their own momentum. Madonna's career provides a masterclass in infinite evolution. While many artists find a successful formula and stick to it, Madonna has undergone at least 7 major reinventions over 4 decades. What's particularly instructive isn't the surface-level changes in her music or appearance, but her systematic approach to perpetual evolution. Early in her career, Madonna developed what she called her reinvention protocol, a structured approach to continuous transformation. Rather than waiting for external pressure to change, she proactively initiated new evolution cycles every 3 to 5 years. Each reinvention wasn't just artistic, it was a complete identity reconstruction, from her skill sets and daily practices to her collaborative networks and creative processes. Most notably, Madonna mastered what she called preemptive evolution, initiating change while still at the peak of success rather than waiting for decline to force adaptation. She understood that the moment you become comfortable with your current identity is the moment you begin becoming irrelevant. The key insight from Madonna's journey isn't just that she changed frequently, but that she developed specific systems to make evolution automatic and inevitable. Every project included built-in triggers for the next transformation cycle, ensuring that growth remained perpetual rather than periodic. This brings us to the continuous evolution matrix, a systematic approach to making transformation your default state. The matrix operates through three primary channels: identity cycling, regularly refreshing how you see yourself; skill spiraling, continuously expanding capabilities in an upward spiral; and environment shifting, systematically changing your surroundings to force adaptation. Raj's journey from stagnating executive to perpetual innovator illustrates the continuous evolution matrix in action. After 15 successful years in technology management, Raj realized he had stopped growing. Despite his achievements, he felt increasingly vulnerable to disruption and irrelevance. Rather than pursuing a single transformation, Raj designed what he called his infinity system, a comprehensive approach to making evolution automatic. He created specific triggers that would initiate new growth cycles every 90 days, regardless of external circumstances. These weren't just arbitrary changes. They were carefully designed evolution spirals that built upon previous growth while pushing into new territory. Most importantly, Raj developed what he called evolution anchors, practices and structures that made continuous transformation sustainable. He implemented a weekly review process to identify areas of stagnation, monthly skill audits to ensure consistent capability expansion, and quarterly disruption sessions, where he deliberately challenged his current identity and assumptions. The results transformed not just his career trajectory, but his entire relationship with growth. Within 2 years, Raj had expanded from pure technology management into emerging fields like AI ethics and digital transformation strategy. But the real success wasn't in the specific achievements. It was in how evolution became his natural state, rather than something he had to consciously force. The continuous evolution matrix provides the framework for designing your own perpetual transformation system. Each element becomes a trigger for the next evolution cycle, creating self-sustaining momentum that makes growth automatic rather than effortful. This isn't about constant upheaval. It's about developing the systems and mindset that make continuous adaptation your default state. Chapter 24. Be unrecognizable. You stand before the mirror, but this time something's different. The reflection staring back at you belongs to someone who has transcended every limitation you once accepted as truth. This isn't visualization or positive thinking. It's the inevitable result of systematic identity reconstruction. 1 year from now, this moment of complete transformation isn't just possible. It's your new reality. The journey of transformation isn't about changing who you are. It's about becoming who you've always been beneath layers of self-imposed limitations. When we understand transformation as an integrated system, rather than a series of isolated changes, we unlock what I call the integration protocol, a comprehensive framework that synthesizes all transformation tools into one coherent system. Think of your identity as a complex ecosystem rather than a single entity. Just as natural ecosystems require multiple interconnected elements working in harmony, sustainable personal transformation demands the synchronized implementation of multiple change vectors. This is where most transformation attempts fail. They focus on changing one element while leaving the supporting structure intact. The integration protocol works by creating what neuroscientists call total pattern disruption, a complete rewiring of neural pathways across all domains simultaneously. Rather than trying to change habits one at a time, this approach triggers a cascade of synchronized shifts that make reverting to old patterns nearly impossible. Matthew McConaughey's transformation from romantic comedy staple to Oscar-winning dramatic actor provides a masterclass in the integration protocol. While many focus on his physical transformation for Dallas Buyers Club, the true brilliance lay in his systematic approach to complete identity reconstruction. McConaughey didn't just change his acting style, he implemented what he called his complete reset protocol. This involved simultaneously transforming his script selection process, his daily preparation rituals, his physical presence, his industry relationships, and most importantly, his fundamental self-concept as an artist. He understood that changing any one element in isolation would be insufficient. The entire ecosystem had to shift in concert. Most notably, McConaughey created what he termed identity lockout mechanisms, deliberate structures that made reverting to his old patterns impossible. He didn't just take on different roles, he systematically dismantled every aspect of his former professional identity while building a new one from the ground up. This brings us to the Metamorphosis Matrix, a comprehensive system for implementing all transformation principles simultaneously. The matrix operates through 4 synchronized channels: identity architecture, systematic reconstruction of self-concept, environmental programming, complete restructuring of your surroundings, relationship recalibration, strategic evolution of your social connections, and behavior integration, systematic implementation of new patterns. Diana's story illustrates the Metamorphosis Matrix in action. After 15 years of feeling trapped in what she called her acceptable life, Diana decided to engineer a complete personal reinvention. Rather than focusing on individual changes, she designed what she called her total reset system. First, she created her identity architecture blueprint, mapping out every aspect of her desired new self, from daily habits to long-term aspirations. But unlike previous attempts at change, she didn't stop there. She simultaneously implemented environmental triggers throughout her home and office that made new behaviors automatic, restructured her entire social circle to support her evolution, and created specific protocols for integrating new patterns across all life domains. Most importantly, Diana developed what she called transformation anchors, specific practices and structures that made her new identity self-reinforcing. She implemented daily identity reinforcement rituals, weekly progress audits, and monthly evolution assessments that kept her transformation momentum building, rather than fading. The results transcended even her most ambitious expectations. Within 1 year, she had transformed from a hesitant middle manager to a confident entrepreneur, from a casual exerciser to a competitive athlete, and from someone who accepted limitations to someone who systematically shattered them. But the real success wasn't in the specific achievements. It was in how her new identity became self-sustaining rather than requiring constant effort to maintain. The Metamorphosis Matrix provides the framework for engineering your own complete transformation. Each element becomes a trigger for others, creating a self-reinforcing cycle that makes evolution inevitable rather than optional. This isn't about willpower or motivation. It's about designing systems that make transformation your default state. Your challenge is to begin implementing your complete metamorphosis through the integration protocol. Create your comprehensive reinvention plan, incorporating all book concepts, identity architecture, environmental programming, relationship recalibration, and behavior integration. Identify the 3 most critical implementation steps that will trigger the transformation cascade, and commit to initiating them within the next hour. Remember, this isn't about gradual improvement. It's about engineering a complete metamorphosis that makes your old self unrecognizable. Your extraordinary future self is waiting. The only question is, are you ready to become unrecognizable? Conclusion. Look around you. This moment, right now, is the last time you'll experience life through the lens of your old identity. Every concept, strategy, and insight you've absorbed today isn't just information. It's a complete rewiring of your neural architecture. The person who started reading this book no longer exists. In their place stands someone equipped with the most powerful transformation technology ever developed. But let's be clear, this isn't the end of your journey. It's not even the beginning of the end. This is the end of the beginning. The moment you step out of the chrysalis of your former self and spread the wings of your extraordinary potential. Throughout this book, we've systematically dismantled the myths about personal transformation and replaced them with proven protocols for complete identity reconstruction. From the fundamental neuroscience of identity plasticity to advanced techniques in environmental design and legacy creation, you now possess a comprehensive system for engineering your own evolution. This book isn't ending. Your real story is just beginning. The pages you've read aren't a conclusion. They're a launch pad. Every concept, every strategy, every insight now lives within you, ready to be activated. The only question remaining is, what will you do with this moment? What begins now is something entirely new, a life of perpetual evolution, of constant expansion, of becoming truly unrecognizable. Not just once, but again and again, each version of you more extraordinary than the last. The clock is ticking. Your new life is waiting. The only question that matters now is, what's your first move? Thank you for listening and for investing in yourself. I believe in you. Your potential is endless. Now, go out there and create the life you deserve.